everyone, it's Jeff from Mid-Atlantic Craps. Welcome back to this, the YouTube channel of Casino Gaming YouTube, and welcome to everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody. And yes, I see the comments in the chat about the music, guys, but I'm telling you, it's really hard to find copyright music that you can use that YouTube doesn't bust on you. Anyway, guys, we're going to get the show started. Just want to remind everybody before we get going that if you have a question and you're in the chat, put a capital Q. If you have something for the panelists that are on the panel tonight, put a capital Q. It's a free-for-all last finale of Season 2 of Craps Chat, and we don't have a special guest. We're just going to talk about craps and see how far the show goes. We like to have some good questions tonight. We got a lot of good people already in the chat. We hope you're going to join us. If you'd like to join us, the actual link is right above you in the chat. Right there. Pin that, hit that, make sure I know who you are, and I can let you get into the Zoom room, and we'd be glad to have you. Till then, I'll see you in just a couple seconds. Well, here we are, guys. It is, I guess it's episode 19, the end of Season 2. It's the finale for this year. It's Christmas time. It's a whole bunch of good things. Let me see if we can hear from my good friend, Dylan, who's the first time he's been on the show quite some time. Dylan, you're in the dark, but I believe you're with us. Good evening, my son, my friend. How are you doing?
I am here, and ho, 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 and yo, 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 all that good stuff, right?
Yep. All right. What I'm going to do, Dylan, while you're talking, you've been gone for a few weeks. I'm going to adjust your audio a little bit to make it just a little bit louder. You know, you've been gone. You've been busy. You've had some things going on in life. This is the first time you've been with us in about five sessions, maybe 3 sessions, 3 to 5 sessions of Craps Chat.
Well, I hope, it seems like an eternity, but hopefully it's not that long. I know I've missed like at least 3, unfortunately.
Right. Well, we've got a lot of people that are here on the show already. We've got people in the green room. I haven't looked to see if I need to let anybody else in, but if somebody wants to get into the Zoom call, please use the pin chat. Again, if you have a question, make sure you queue it up. John will be joining us in a little bit. He's busy at the moment. He said he would be coming into the show a little bit late, so we'll put him on the screen once he gets here. So let's go ahead and bring our panelists on the show here. Let me make sure I get the right one. Here we go. Let's hit their audio. And good evening, everybody. Joe's waving to us. Joe, let me have an audio check. How you doing, my friend? Oh, he's got his.
I am doing good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Brian, welcome to you. Holy Roller's with us. How are you doing?
Hey. I couldn't miss the finale. Come on.
Yeah, actually, Brian, you put this in about an hour ago. I'm here. I'll join via Zoom. You were here early. You were the first one in. It's very simple to get into the Zoom call, guys. All you got to do is just hit the link in the chat, and you'll come in with us. So, Leon, great craps down there on the bottom. Not saving the best for last, or how's that saying go? How are you doing there, Leon?
Said great, I guess.
Well, it's great to see you. Are you ready? Everybody ready for Christmas?
I am.
I'm never ready for Christmas, but I'm anticipating it. You know, it's going to be a great Christmas.
Well, it's going to be a great Christmas. It should be a great Christmas, and we should all remember what the actual reason for the season is and keep that in mind, because there's people all across the world that are in need, and some of the things that are going on in the world today is just tragic. It's a season for everybody knows the reason why. Regardless of what you're celebrating, it doesn't matter. However you're celebrating, just keep that in mind. So, Dylan, the show. This is the finale for 2013. This is into Season 2. Sum up to us how you think about the show.
Well, it's still brand new to me. You know, even though that this season is over. What can you say? I mean, we've hit a lot of home runs, and we've had great craps chats. Good discussions here and there, and we've had great guests on. So, I'm very, very pleased with the show. Very happy with everything that's going on. So, I can't really add more to it than that. I'm very happy.
Well, we have had some good guests on this season. There's no guest tonight. It's a free for all. Anybody can ask anything they want to ask about craps, gambling in general. And since we got Brian from Holy Roller, if you want to know about craps on a cruise, he's here and can talk to you about it. I'm sure he's going to tell us a little bit about what he's got going on. A little elf told me something that might be happening in your world, Brian. So we'll get to talk about that here in just a little bit. So. I'm trying to see if I have any questions come up. Looks like I do have the first question coming up. But guys, welcome to the show. Hopefully John will join us here in just a few minutes. So let's go over to Craps Master Journey. What's going on in your world, Joe? You've got that level up program, and I don't even want to guess the number because I'll be wrong with the number of shows.
I am over close to 300 shows, I think, on the level up program. And it's just basically me going through every morning and shooting the dice and practice trend betting systems, our ways of playing the table. Just getting on to practicing. I don't get to the casino too often, although I was at the casino twice this week. But that's my fix. That's my way of practicing. That's my way of getting in my craps fixed and staying on top of how I do things. So. And I encourage everybody to come along. I run a crapsy show in the morning, and we were doing the $1 million challenge, and it was a little bit harder than it looks. So we are no longer doing the $1 million challenge. We're going to start a new series starting tomorrow morning. So make sure you guys check me out 8 o'clock Central Time, and we'll tell you about the reason what it's going to be about. So.
All right. Let's head down to Leon. We'll come back to Brian and get the latest with him. But Leon, down in, I believe it's Florida, could be Georgia, but I think you're in Florida. I saw your opening for the shorts that you had and the live that you did from the actual start. I assume it's table games, but craps in Florida.
Yeah, so craps is now, along with roulette and sports betting, is now legal in Florida. It has been for a couple of years, but it was tied up in a court case, and that cleared up over the summer. And so, as many of you know, they just had to take the time to get the dealers trained up, and it opened officially at all the Seminole casinos. I'm up north in the Panhandle of Florida. All the Seminole casinos are down south. So Miami area, and I think the furthest north one is Tampa. And so I went a little over a week ago and went and covered the opening of craps at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino in Tampa on that Friday that they opened. And a lot of celebrities there. You can go watch my video on it. It's pretty neat event. I managed to score a media pass. Thanks to all of you and the network and reach. I think I dropped the fact that I'm on this show pretty frequently as part of my way of talking in the door. And so here I am fulfilling that, talking about craps in Florida. And I think my video might have more views than like the local TV station there in Tampa at the moment. So that worked out pretty nicely.
Well, as you saw, I displayed up in the chat that Albright Rock asked, has anybody played craps at the Hard Rock casinos in Florida yet, and any insights? You definitely have some insights. I monitor a lot of forums and chat groups, and it seems like the first couple of days, man, I don't want to speak bad of dealers because we need them. It was crazy. A couple people over in the Craps Nation Skype group, they were really, really being very explicit about, the issues that they had. But then I think on today's Sunday, I believe on Friday, I'm not going to say who it was a friend of mine that lives in Florida. He said that it has smoothed out a little bit and the play got a little better. And I guess maybe the dealers and the box people and the floor people got it together. Is that what you've heard?
Yeah, so I think that was the plan originally. I talked to one of the pit bosses while I was there in the larger pit on the main casino floor there. And there's 6 tables. That's the biggest craps pit I've ever seen. I don't think I've even seen a craps pit in Vegas with 6 tables, all and not mixed in with roulette, but its own craps pit. And I talked to him, and he said that they actually had opened the tables that day at 15 on that side. Where I had been for the media opener, they opened at 25. There's only 2 tables there, but that was all the celebrities. And then once they got done with the celebrity stuff, they opened it to the public. But on that side, they had opened it at 15, and it filled up so fast that they just shot right to 25. All the tables go up and down at the same time. They don't have, like in Biloxi and other places, they don't have like a $10 table and a 15 and a 25 and a 50. They're all going up and down at the same time. So that he said, I asked him, are they going to go back down? And he said, yeah, the plan will be like during the week, midday, early morning and midday when they first open, $10 tables. Then as they start to pick up business, $15 tables. And of course, on the weekends, all you're going to see is $15 and $25 tables. And in prime time, of course, too, if it gets busy. It stayed like every single one of those tables was full. It stayed packed the like 3 or so hours that I was there. And then from just following comments on social media and stuff, it seems like it stayed that way. So that's kind of cool. I think that there's such an appetite for craps out there that kind of freaky that people play, $25 tables and up and still fill those tables up. But I think it kind of died down. And so it looks like midweek, from what I've been seeing as well, that they have dropped down to $10 and $15, just like the pit boss had said they would do. So.
Well, that's good to hear. I see casinos that have a designated craps pit. Caesars from one in Atlantic City. The Foxwoods makes up in the Northeast makes up an area that's a craps pit. Harbor and MGM, the craps pit at Maryland Live, and over at the Mohegan Sun. Anywhere I've ever been to one of those, it's a standard $25 table in those areas. It's good to hear that you said that they would be, 10 and 15 during the daytime. So I appreciate that. We're probably going to have some more questions as people filter in, so we'll rely back to you on that. I want to get over to say hello tonight to El Toro, but then I'm going to go to Brian because I want Brian to tell us what he's got going on in his world. Good evening, El Toro. How are you?
He's muted right now.
Yeah, he's muted. I see that. He may not be quite paying attention to us, but we'll go on and go up to Brian. Brian, my friend, a little elf told me that you're working on a craps cruise with Jeremy from Color Up. Is that true?
Well, yeah, we've been trying to put something together for a while, and just getting the dates to work. I just got back from a back 3 cruises and
Wow,
3
nice.
different ships. And I got my wife, Amber, and myself both got offers for free cruises. So we came back with a bunch of free cruises. So I called Jeremy. I'm like, hey, what about this date? You want to go? And so he said, yeah. And so if you're part of the Color Up Club, he's sharing the dates there. And we're going to be there trying to get everybody to win a free cruise. And then we'll pick from the winning cruise that if everybody wins a cruise, we'll pick and do a craps cruise and just put it out to everyone. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, you and I had talked about doing on our own channels, doing something together. So hopefully, maybe after the first year, we'll be able to do that. And I like doing and helping other channels. I like doing dual streams with other channels. So you never know. Maybe we'll get Jeremy to come on while we're there, and you guys can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right. Well, I want to ask you a question real quick. I noticed your shirt says "Always Working." I like your logo. I like the brackets around the R. Do you work to come out?
It depends on the strategy I'm using. Most of the time I don't. But a lot of times if I see 2 7s in a row, I'll just say, hey, work me on the come out. Because I mean, sometimes I'll get hit with the 3rd 7 in a row, but usually not. It's a good start. Well, if I see two come out 7s.
They do happen. Just your shirt said "Always Working." It kind of struck me. You and I have never talked about working to come out at all. But I mean, I spent some time with you in Vegas over the Veterans Day weekend. But the actual working to come out is typically a topic for this show. Almost every single show, yeah. we talk about working to come out. So
I'll tell you what I do work. What I do work every time. I never turn off. Is hard ways. If I bet the hard ways, I want them working, because if you see a hard way, you want to get paid, because they don't come around that often. And so I do what's called, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's called the Buffalo bet. It's
Yes.
it's an E7 and all the hard ways working. And if you get a 7 on the come out, it's a push. And so I love to play that one. So that's when I'm always working on the hard ways. But this has to do with just the channel too. I'm always working.
All right. Well, God bless you, and I'm glad that you're here today. I know that you do a couple other things in the I don't know if it's social media world, but in the internet world, I know you've got some other things going on. So I'm glad to have you here tonight. Here you got a hero out. I mean, you got a admirer out there. Jr. Says working craps hero is something to be. Guys, looks like we've got about. I can't see how many we actually have on here now. We've got to have some questions, guys. Come up with some questions. We're going to go to the question about Howard Rock and Roller. I do not have any information about him, so let me go up there. We've got 60 people watching currently. Let me put that question up here. I forgot who it came from. It came from Arnell over at Dice Grinders. He asked anyone if they had any information about Howard and prayers to him and his family. I know that he had surgery. I personally do not know. I did see this follow-up chat come from Gargoyle. Says he's still in the hospital waiting the results. I'm just devastated right now because I think it was scheduled and then it wound up being an emergency from that standpoint. I think Novato and somebody else said something here about the news. I personally have never met Howard. I've talked to him on the phone, but if anybody has any update information on the status, please let us know in the chat. With that said, I'm going to go back to El Toro again and welcome him to the show. Maybe he's came back to his computer or his tablet, and there he goes. He's off the screen. Yes, back to your senses. Long time no talk to, my friend.
All right, buddy.
So, like I said, I think we were together 3 hours earlier this week on a show with Ed and me. But I'm glad to see you show up in the chat tonight, and welcome. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Any words of wisdom for us?
Oh, no words of wisdom yet.
All right, let's go over here and let me see what this says. Ask Gil about the Buffalo bet evolving. Let's talk about that. I'm gonna put this up where you can't read it, but Duracells asked, "Hey, tell us about the Buffalo bet and the evolution in the Big AZ channel, because the Buffalo bet, the Bison bet, and the International Bison. If you're a watcher of Big AZ Craps Guru, you watch his live show, you just know what that is. But Dylan, you had something to do with that whole thing over on his channel almost 2 years ago. Tell us about it."
Yeah, I was trying to create something new, and I came up with an international bison because what I did was I combined the buffalo and the world bet, and I combined them together, and we called it the international bison because the world substitute the international substituted for the world, and the bison switched over from the buffalo. So it was just combining all of them together. And then Ryan B, who is a big star on Big AZ's channel, he's from Canada. Him and I were working it out. We were talking about different hard ways and different things like that we could filter through instead of some of the sevens. You could do the hard ways because it would pay better. So we were just tweaking it around and just throwing stuff around, and so we wanted to come up with something funny and something original. So I always try to come up with stuff out of left field as far as I can, and so so it was a nice collaboration with Ryan B and myself. But I kind of kickstarted it, and he helped me fine tune it, and so it took off on Big AZ's channel because everybody likes those different different wacky bets. So it just fit right in. So it took off.
All right, well, there's the history of it. I actually have heard at a real casino, both in Vegas and in Atlantic City, somebody actually say, give me a bison, just like Brian just explained. But I actually heard somebody ask for an international bison in AC, and the dealers gave them the look like they wouldn't know what that was.
Right.
So, but in any event, the bison is the bison, and as you said, you'd explained it, Brian explained it, and appreciate that. El Toro, we have a question that's going to be coming up for you after this first question we're going to get to. So if you can look at the chat and maybe formulate your answer. I know you talked a lot about this on the show this past Thursday night with my channel and Ed's channel. But let me go over here and get this first question. It comes from my good friend Mike at On the Point Craps. It's good to see him back in the community. So Mike says, since the home run plays rarely happen, I think he's talking about long rolls, what are your thoughts on the grind strategies to build comps or tier credits? Mike, I played with you a couple of times and look forward to seeing you again here in the near future, in I guess maybe 2 or 3 weeks. There's people who play for tier credits and play for the comps, and there are people that don't give a player's card, which is, I did this question before the question for El Toro because I know what he said on the show the other night. But anybody here in the channel that's with us right now, what is your thoughts on playing grinding strategies to make sure you get some comps and build up the tier credits versus, maybe doing something that may be a little more profitable and maybe not so much of a grind?
I'm going to give credit
start
to
if you want me to.
Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll come right back to you, Joe. Go ahead, Dylan.
That's fine.
I'm going to give credit to where credit's due. I was watching Holy Roller's channel, and I'm going to give him full credit for this. He had a very interesting strategy that was that you start with a high don't, typical, and then do a 6 and 8 as a typical hedge strategy, and then whatever the point is, just hedge the point after the point comes out, and after you collect a few times. So that was really cool, and it's not. It's not.
Sounds like a little twist to the 6, 7, 8. Brian, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's a modified 6, 7, 8 strategy, and but yeah, it's definitely a comp builder, quick, and that's what I do to get the cruise. I can usually do 2 sessions at Craps and have a free cruise after the first 2 sessions, playing that way.
All right.
I love
All right.
it.
Joe, Joe, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I really don't play for comps that much. Although when I go down to Illinois to play with that crew, that may change my way of thinking. But normally I start off with just a horseman strategy on anybody that I don't know who's throwing the dice at the table until I know how they normally throw. And then if it's a thrower that I know, if it's myself, what I'll do is I'll do John's 3-tier strategy, where I try to get out of that shooter as fast as possible, usually 2 to 4, 2 to 5 rolls, and then build up a little bit of a profit, and then I start trend betting and working my bets up, hoping for that home run. I do realize it doesn't happen very often, but it allows you to bring some money back to back as well as build your bets up so you have the potential to make more money. So the comps in my casino, they give you comps for the slot machines. So, it's why it's not that important to me right now.
Right. Well, I play Caesar's Properties, and I'm not top tier, but I'm trying to get there after the Christmas holiday, and I do play differently, trying to build some comps than I play when I want to make money. But if I'm going to be there for 4 or 5 days, I've got to let my bankroll last that long, and that also plays into how you're going to play. Like if I'm going to ride up and ride back for the day, it's a whole total different experience for me. But when I go up, it's like me flying to Vegas for 4 or 5 days. I'm going to go to Atlantic City for 4 or 5 days, or to the Northeast, up to the Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods, or even to Boston. I haven't been to that casino yet, but I would like to join that. So I'm going to go to Leon next before I head over to El Toro, and I'm going to have El Toro chime in on this question, and then I got a question for him as well. So Leon, grinding strategies, comps, tier credits. What do you think?
Don't really play a high enough bankroll for any of that to make much of a difference. So I do still check after I'm done playing, especially if I'm on the table for a while. I'll if I remember, I'll check with the pit boss and see how they rated me. Surprisingly, even as low bankroll as I do play, I have gotten some comps and some credits. So I've noticed I play mostly Caesars when I do give my card and everything, and so I've noticed some of my hotel rates for Vegas have gone down based on that compared to some of my friends who also go and don't gamble as much. I got one friend whose hotel rates are way better than mine, though. So I know he's been probably gambling or losing more money than I have for sure. So. But for the most part, I don't factor that in that much. I'm more playing to play and to try and win, not so much to get credits or comps.
All right. Let's go over to El Toro. If you can unmute yourself. I know that I think you heard the question, and you probably read the question I'm going to display that follows up to that. So your opinion on strategies, grinding, comps, and tiers. I know what you said the other night, but that was on a different show.
Yeah. So grinding strategies, I don't like grinding strategies. First, as far as comps, for those of you guys who didn't hear me last time, I really don't play for comps. We get comps when my wife plays the slot machines, and that's what we use. As far as tables go, no, I don't give them any of my information there.
No. All right. So you're talking about the answer to this question here. Is that that latter part was making a good living playing craps? What are your winning key methods, and does it revolve around being a better than average shooter, DI or no DI? And I was actually surprised the other night when we were talking about dice influencing and betting. Because you had a great opinion on both ways that you play.
Right. So great question on this one. So making a good living playing craps, the first thing you want to do is probably define what is making a good living to you. That's the very first thing you want to do. And is that realistic? Key methods for me, it has to do.
Dropped your audio there, El Toro. You look like you muted yourself.
Whoops, sorry about that.
Go. That's okay. It happens.
I don't know what part I stopped at, but winning key methods, basically, it's how I play. I'm really big on regression play. I like to get out of the hand quick and then to start multiplying my profits on that hand. Now, does it revolve around being a better than average shooter? It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt because you're not just throwing money out there. If you know that you're going to end up throwing a cluster of numbers, let's call it 5, 8, and 9, right? Then it makes sense to put more money on those 3 numbers, but still catch the other 3, just because you may hit them. And again, no one's perfect when they throw those dice. If you hit the pyramids a little high, it's going to jumble up your dice. You may just find yourself a 4. I'll always take luck, right? But I like to get paid on it too.
Yeah, you the way that you worded it the other night in regards to the skill of being a DI and the amount of time that you put in it versus how much attention you spend to your betting. The way that you bet, I don't know if call it a strategy system, whatever. The way that you bet, and you're in early and you're out, and then that's how you play. And it was a big long conversation the other night, but it was really great. Thanks for sharing that with us. Any other words of wisdom?
Worries. It's anything I can share to help players become better players. To me, it benefits me because you never know when I'm on that table. If I'm on that table with somebody, I'd like to see at least they're trying and doing their best. But if I see somebody running a goofy strategy, and you know how I feel about strategies, right?
Yes.
If I see somebody running something that's just a quote unquote guaranteed winner, I'll usually stop them from doing that, or I'll ask them, "Where did you see this for shit? Where did you see this?" And
I saw it on John's show.
Tell me how that's working for you.
Well, as you can hear, John's joined us, and John, a little over hot on your mic. Let me adjust your audio on my end. But welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you? I'm tired, man. There was a long day today. Jeez, Lou.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
2 hours sleep last night and worked all day today. So I just got off work and talked to my family and all that kind of stuff. So I need to just chill and talk to y'all for a little bit.
Well, you're welcome to the show. You always say it's the highlight of your week, but this is the season finale. But I believe El Toro had another comment. I think I talked over him. Did you have something else that you said to John El Toro?
Oh, I said, hey, John,
Oh,
the more the
sorry.
merrier. The more the merrier, buddy.
Yeah, everybody come join
know,
the show.
it
Hit
is
the
the
link in
finale.
the chat. Yep, come join
This
us.
is the
Here's a
finale.
follow up. Yeah, it is the
Go ahead.
finale of season 2. We'll be back in January, mid-January, where I'm between travels, and we'll be coming out with season 3. Hopefully, we're gonna have a whole new look and some new bells and whistles, but we'll see what takes place. Here is a follow-up question for you, El Toro, from Arnell over at Dice Grinders, who was on the show with us this past Thursday night. El Toro mentioned that he does an inline toss. Can you tell us what kind and why he goes to the inline toss? Just curious.
Okay. Yeah, primarily I do use an inline toss. What kind? I don't know what that means. It's basically in line. It's one die in front of the other. No particular dice set unless I'm wanting to hit a specific group of numbers. So you kind of know how those dice are going to go. I throw it like a knuckleball flat, and I try to get them as when they land in the landing zone. I want them to be as flat on the faces as possible.
Okay.
If that's
Makes
what you're
sense.
asking me.
Well, I've played with Arnell, and he does an inline toss, and he does it so fast that I can't watch him. But I think that's the reason why he was asking maybe a little bit further, clarification of how the inline that he uses. And if Arnell, you want to join us and talk about your inline shot, but by all means, come on the show with us. I've seen your shot. I haven't seen El Toro's shot, but I've seen Arnell throw 2 different ways, and he did rather well myself, shooting both ways.
Can I
Anybody else
ask
got
a
any?
follow-up question? Yeah,
Sure,
I'd like
go ahead,
to ask
Diamond.
El Toro, when you're talking about your regression system, could you give us a more clear picture for a scenario where are you
I
thinking
can help.
like 220 inside, and then once you get your hit, then you come down to what? Can you like
Yeah.
scale it
No,
for
I
us?
got it. I got you.
For like two different examples.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's scalable.
So here's
Okay.
yeah, I got you. So here's how I would probably do that. So let's say the average player watching the show here is going to be doing 110, right? 110 inside. Now you can do a couple things with 110. You do 110 inside, and if you're playing on a $15 table, you'd regress everything down to your table minimum, right? It's going to be what 90. I don't even know what the heck that is. 96.
96.
Across.
Yeah.
96
So
across,
96.
but
Then you can play and start pressing all you want, or you can keep. There's another way to regress too, and this is actually a really quick one to do. You still got the same 110. You can disperse it any way you want. $15 4 and 10, $15 5 and 9, and you can go heavy on one of the 2 numbers, 6 or 8, right? Take that one hit and regress down. You always have money on the table is what I try to do, unless you are a bare minimum player and you don't like to go above table minimum. Then the only way to regress at that point is pulling down that bet and its sister number. Then you're doing a full regression and you're peeling yourself off the table. Does that make sense, Donald?
yeah. I just
Always go
wasn't for
down
sure
a level.
because
Always go down to
because
table minimum if you have to, but for me, I'll regress down to 220 and then play from there.
okay, because there's different forms of regression or different ways that you can do it. Where
Of course.
some people like if you did like 550, and whatever that one hit pays for wherever you're scaling at, then they want
Mhm.
to have the rest of the inside or the once you regress
Mhm.
below whatever it paid. And so
That's correct.
that's what I was curious if
It,
if that was one of your goals, or if that doesn't matter to you, if you just go just a table minimum period, no matter what the quote unquote first hit gets.
Me personally, I'll go down to 110.
Okay.
I'll regress down to 110 because I'll be out of the game one shot. In one shot, I'm out the game. Now I'm playing on pure profits, and from there, I can do whatever I need to at that point. The regression, like you just said, there's many ways to regress. There's not a bad way to regress. Although, I asked my buddy Ed, he doesn't regress at all. He likes to climb the ladder, and he does well at it, right? But for me, I've had more success and I've had more consistent wins by regressing and regressing many different ways. But as long as I'm getting out of that hand early within the first shot, second throw of the dice, I'm okay. I'm not going to lose. And again, we mentioned this last night or 2 nights ago. You know, if you really ask most dealers, they'll tell you successful players regress. They learn how to regress.
All right. Following with that line of thought on the shot, we have a frequent person to most of the crap channels here in our community, as well as this channel. Novato has a question. He doesn't mean to sound dumb, he says, and there's not a dumb question on this show, guys. Ask whatever you want to ask, as long as it's related about craps and not about. Well, anyway, we'll let that go. He wants to know, what is the inline shot? Can you give us just a little more description of what the inline shot actually is, like when you set the dice, when you grip them, and obviously you've already explained where you're throwing them.
Yeah, so I'll use an inline. Inline I'll use from the end of the tables, or I'll use it from stick right. What you do is let's say we're going to use, shoot, I don't have my dice with me, but let's say you're going to use sixes on top, inline sixes, fives facing you, right? You got those 2 dice lined up going to the back wall, or you're going to go throw them into the hook, or you're going to throw them into the far corner, depending on where you like to shoot. You're going to grip it with your 3 fingers, your index, your middle finger, and your ring finger, your thumb, and it's resting on the back pinky. So that back die is resting on the inside of your pinky. All I do is I just slide them back just a touch. I slide them back because I want to check my grip. I want to make sure I'm not gripping these things too tight. My grip is real light on these dice, so sometimes I end up missing the dice, or they slide out of my hands if it's too light. The reason I keep my grip light is when I just push the dice, because that's all I'm doing at this point now is just pushing the dice. Put the dice. If you have those stacked dice right there, Ed, stack them up on your pinky.
Who are you talking to? Both John and I had it up there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
No, it's all right. No, yeah, John had his, and I was.
Yeah.
The pinky's on the back to stabilize, and your fingers on the side to. Yeah.
The sides, your fingers are stabilizing it. Yeah, your fingers will stabilize. Your thumb is going to stabilize. Your pinky is what you're using to push.
Yep.
Now, what happens here is because your grip is so light, you're not going to make those dice spin. They won't spin in any direction. There you go, just like that.
Do it again, John.
There you go, just like that. That's exactly right. You're not going to get a whole lot of spin. Now, the first time you try this, I will tell you, you're going to get the spin. You're going to get the dice spinning probably towards, because everybody's used to a part toss, you're going to get them spinning left. So they'll bounce left. You got to kind of turn your hand to the right like you're putting some English on a pool cue. Oh. That way they go straight into where you want it to go. And that's how I throw them. I just kind of gently push them up and then let them lie flat and die at the end. My landing zone typically is going to be maybe an inch to 2 inches from that back wall. And that's how I keep them from getting above that third rail of alligator or pyramids.
Okay.
Does that help?
I think it does. I think we got Jalapon and Nevada's question answered, and Arnell's question, I believe we got it answered. I'm looking at the chats here, and looks like that was answered. If you'd like to join the show, guys, it's in the chat and it's pinned in the chat. You can just hit that link and come on in. I'll let you in. John, we'll go back to you now that you joined the show. You were a little bit late. I didn't give you a lot of time to talk because we were answering the question that was asked of El Toro. How is John?
In what respect? How am I?
Well, you said you're working a lot. I mean, you come on this show. Looks like to maybe get a little bit of relief, a little bit of stress reliever.
It's a huge stress reliever. You guys are awesome. I mean, it's I'm working a lot. My work is very stressful right now. So sounds like we're going to be okay through like April, May, but no guarantees after that. That's what I know right now. So.
All right.
I choose not to worry about it. It's Christmas, and I'm choosing not to worry about it. I'm just going to put in the hours I can put in. That's it. Just keep the place floating.
All right.
It's one of those all hands on deck type of things. But yeah, craps craps and all this stuff here is it's good to have this as a reason not to have to think and stress. You know what I mean? Like not having a lot of people I work with are in the same situation I'm in, but they have nowhere to go. Like no stress reliever, no group like this, so it's pretty comforting, you know.
Right.
Like I'm over here making show notes for tomorrow. I mean, this is great. You know, I mean.
All right. Well, nope. Well, I actually switched to the screen for a reason. I wasn't too sure who actually was joining us, but as you can see, if anybody recognizes that table, it is Ed. He has decided to join us. Typically, in the description, it says "Roll to Win." And for those of you that are longtime viewers of the show, occasionally we get somebody to sneak in the show that has ideas other than craps. We'll leave it at that. And I have to be careful.
Not doing any porn tonight.
about who we let in the show. We like chip porn on the show. We don't like the rest of it at all. At all. Another question here for you, El Toro, but I want to go these questions in a row. Let me see. Novato asked another good question. And I'm going to follow it up by Mike the Point, and we're going to get back to a question there. So let's switch gears just 1 second here, guys. This question here, man, that's small. I'll read it. Jeff, in your last show, the panel mentioned how they chose a table by looking at the player's rail. Lots of chips equals hot table. I agree. Does the panel have any other methods to find a hot table? Wow. Anybody want to take a stab at this first?
I do that. I'll check the rail, but we talk about a little bit about grind strategies and getting out as fast as possible. With playing from the don't, you're risking that come out. But if you could get one hit, or depending on how you distribute your if you play hybrid, it doesn't matter if you have a long roll or a short roll. You're primed and ready after one hit. Even if you get one hit, you're ready to make some money. So, although, a lot of people don't like grinding strategies, I like to think of it as hybrid strategies where I'm going to win on a short roll and a long roll. I'll win more on a long roll just like everybody else, but I won't lose as much on a short roll.
Okay. Yep. I understand.
That's true.
Strategies. Yep.
That's actually true. What he's saying. That's the grinding strategy. We may be talking about different things for grinding and hybrid, but every time I hear a grinding strategy, I just keep thinking back on my buddy Dax's strategy, and it's like, wow, what a grind!
Yeah, just spinning your wheels and not going anywhere. I'm not for $5. That.
It's all for $5.
The thing is, when you play the tie, you're just not playing. It's like that strategy, for $5, it isn't worth it. And the thing is, either you tie, you win a pittance, or you lose. There's no win in that strategy, unless you win.
Well, there is actually is. You just got to have some cojones of steel to do this, because I showed it on my video. Everybody makes fun of it because I called out buckets, right?
Yep. I remember that. Yep.
But even
that's how you win.
Per thing, the win per thing was still like only $70. It wasn't even like there was so much money out there to make that work.
Oh yeah, you're playing 600 on the 600 in the front, and then you're running 600 through the DC. You're going to be making 100 and it was like 100 and change each throw.
Yeah,
right.
I also think like
if you get picked off though. The thing is, that's the thing. If you get picked off in that deal, you lose a ton, right? And to grind back from that is those kind of strategies are folly. Like that way of playing is you're gonna tie a lot, you're gonna win a tiny bit, or you're gonna get your ass kicked. You gotta be careful with that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like the whole, do you go from table minimum and build it up, or do you regress down? That's the only two things you should be thinking about.
Yeah, that particular strategy. No, actually you don't. That particular strategy, if you catch a 7, yeah, you're gonna lose right off the bat. If you run your DC, you throw an 11, you're gonna lose right off the bat right there. You lose $600 right at that level. But again, when you catch the 3, you get it pretty quick. And then when you're plugging the hole in the bottom of that number, you're pretty much safe at that point. Now you're playing like everybody else. You want to throw as many numbers as possible. I really studied that strategy quite a bit, but to make it make sense for me, I'd have to play it at such a high level that it's just ridiculously high. I mean, who's going to play $600 right off the bat on both sides, with the table, or to say playing it on place bets and then run it through the DC at the same time? That's just kind of
one of my
weird.
all-time favorite videos, though.
It's a great one. Yeah, the video itself has got like I don't know how many views on it, but it took me a while to learn exactly what he was doing, because I screwed it up at the casino and I called him that night and I said, "Buddy," I said, "this is the worst strategy I've ever seen." And then he's after I explained what I was doing, he's like, "Well, no shit." He said, "You're doing it wrong."
You do have to play it at a very high level.
Yeah,
I remember trying it at a $25 level, and I went,
"You're going to get a nickel."
"Oh man, this is like way too much work for too little money. You got to play it $100 or higher."
Yeah, it's easily. But when Dax told me how to actually play the dang strategy, that's when I asked him if it was okay if I make a video to explain it my own way, the way I see it, and if he was all right with it. And he was. I mean, because I spent quite a bit of time with him that night. I think it was till 3 a.m. talking about it. But I figured it out, and I said, "Yeah, based on the math, shoot, yeah, you got to play it at a pretty good level. I mean, $600, and to me it was like $600 and higher to make the money." I said, "Well, we'll run it this way." But it was a good strategy. I didn't see any holes in it, to be honest with you. Not real bad ones, at least.
You just gotta escape that 7 or 11 on the don't pass and the DC.
That's right. And sorry, I'm looking through the comments here. Jeff, I know this is your show. I'm sorry. Just look at the comments.
You're fine. This
Nivaldo.
You go ahead.
Nivaldo Hernandez. Yeah, yes. Nivaldo Hernandez. He says, "Wow, that's a crazy throw." Buddy, it's just Dice Grinders explained it perfect, right? You just turn the dice perpendicular to the back wall or to your target and shoot it. That's all you do. Just keep them from spinning. That's all you got to do. That's the easiest way to explain it. Now, do what's comfortable for you. However you decide you want to hold the grip, if that's what you want to do. Arnell has his way of holding it. Probably very similar to mine, but there's only one way you're going to get them down there. Just loft them.
Right. Well, let's move on to another question, and I'd be curious to know if you have something to say about this as well. But let's let our panel see if we can get them to answer. This comes from again On Point Craps, Mike at On Point. What do you think? What do you look for when you are qualifying for a shooter? Sets, types, throws, numbers of rolls, et cetera, et cetera. We hear a lot of channels talk about qualifying the shooter. Ed says qualifying the shooter. So Ed, you probably should take this one first, since you always say you start out with a 6 and an 8 on most random, sometimes 6, 7, 8, but you don't go heavy on people, but you do pay attention to what that shooter did, so when the table comes around the next time, you have some idea.
Yeah, well, number one, are they, and again, you can't really rely on history of a shooter. You gotta evaluate them right then, there, in the moment. Are they setting the dice? Are they leaving the dice set and not setting them and then shaking and baking them, which is stupid? Are they setting the dice? Are they launching them consistently at the same angle? And are they hitting the same general area of a landing zone? That's critical when you're trying to figure out what to do on somebody you don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting to watch guys and gals shoot. You see a lot of hocus pocus. You see a lot of weird. We all see weird stuff people do with the dice, but they do it the same way every single time. So when they get through with all the hocus pocus stuff, are they launching it the same? Are they landing it in the same spot? And are they getting box numbers? Or are they getting junk? So you got to decide then, what do I want to do, a field bet, or do I want to do a box number or two based on their throw? We've all sat there before and played the 6, 7, 8, as you guys call it. I call it one hit, can't miss, where you're playing a don't pass and a 6, 8, and they're freaking murdering 5s and 9s or 4s and 10s, and never, you're happy as hell when they finally hit a 6 or an 8 just so you can break even or can't lose on the bet. But, you got to make adjustments. There's no doubt about it. You've got to find a way to qualify that person. And I can't stress enough, don't bet on random people until you've qualified them. You just, make a decision on how they're doing on this particular throw. The next throw don't matter. The last throw don't matter. It's what are they doing right now that's important.
Okay. Anybody else want to take
I think
stab at that question?
I think that's when it comes to having a good betting strategy that, and I reiterate again, it doesn't matter who's shooting the dice if I have a good betting strategy, because there's sometimes, these people, the dice are off the table, the dice are all knocking down all the chips, and it's like they're so, it's not random, it's chaos throwing, it's like, what is happening over here? And at that point, I would normally turn off and say, man, take me down. This person taking forever just to get a point established or get a good roll. But when you're on the don't, if you get past that first one, it doesn't matter, if they last long or not. And I think if I am on the light side, I would probably pull down or get my one hit and then regress. But yeah, I mean, when you got somebody, like I said, sometimes I say, they're throwing, because I play a lot on the ship, and I'm like, they're throwing into a hurricane right there. I mean, it's just like a hurricane chaos right there on the dice. And so that's why when I play that don't pass, it's like an insurance against all that chaos.
So,
Okay.
If you don't like the first toss, just wait. Play a DC, see where it takes you. If it takes you to a 6 or an 8, leave it up. You've already beat the 7 and 11 on that shot. So
the odds
take
are,
it.
The odds are in your favor.
Take another DC and see if you can get a 4 and 10. Lay a little odds on it. Or 5 and 9. Put $45 on it and see if you can win $30. Don't get carried away because you're going to get knocked off some. There's no doubt about it. You're going to get knocked off some as you go.
All right. I know that John was getting ready to say something, but Joe, were you going to say something too?
Yeah, I want to talk, qualifying a shooter and that, I agree with everything that Ed said, but what I would like to add to it is I watched the action of the dice after it comes off the wall. How much energy does that dice have going into the wall and coming off? Is it bouncing and landing right next to the wall? Is it rolling back several feet and hitting chips? I think that, if you can get it to land close to the wall, you're going to hopefully help reduce that randomizing ice. The further they travel, the harder it is to control, what kind of numbers, box numbers, or whatever's coming up. So, everything that Ed has said is 100% accurate, but I would like to add that in, how they come off that back wall.
All right. John, you had something I think you were getting ready to say.
Yeah, this kind of goes along with what I was saying is I don't believe, I think we have to have every conversation has to be had in the context of controlled shooter or not, right? So the question was about qualifying shooters in general. You cannot qualify a random shooter. Period. End of story. Right? I was at a casino not long ago. I think I told the story before. The guy's like, he was like, "Oh, this guy's a good shooter. You got to bet on him." Right? And the guy picks the dice up, like literally, I hear him shaking, and he basically took a step forward and threw a pea down the end of the table, right?
Oh boy!
And it came back to him, and he shook him again. No setting, just bullshit throwing, right? You can't qualify that guy. That guy cannot be a good shooter. There's no good shooter when you're just horseshit random throwing, right? It's just impossible. So I think we got to make sure we talk about qualifying a shooter in that. Every one of those guys is going to be on the pyramid, likely or worse, right? You got to figure that. So when it's pure random, that's like the whole talk about trending and all that shit, right? It's pure random. There's no such thing as qualifying. So you got to do what you're going to do. Either don't bet at all, minimum 6 and 8, horsemen, something like that to be safe, or just watch the roll, right? Those guys, it's not bad to go just a little pass line bet and minimum ATS if you want to. Take one hit, pay for the bets, and get the hell out of there, right? Let the roll happen. Now, if somebody's doing like Joe was talking about, if you watch a guy who's carefully setting the dice to a set you recognize, and they got good mechanics and they're decent. Okay, can this guy shoot? That's a qualifying roll. Now you're looking to see what that guy can actually do. You still bet light, like Ed said. You don't just trust him because he looks cool. But you got to see what's happening with the dice, and you can
Always look. I always look to see what they're tossing. I mean, there's three sets you're going to see very commonly. You're going to see a hardway set. You're going to see a 3V set, and you're going to see an inline sixes. I mean, one of those three are the most common three I see. Random, what I consider random tossers shooting. Sometimes a cross six on a crapless table. But I mean, those are the three you always see. And if you know what those sets are supposed to produce, are they producing those numbers? That's what you as an experienced craps player have to determine, and whether or not you're going to put your hard-earned money on that person, or whether you're going to continue to play the don'ts or just set it out. I mean, I've set them out, and I've watched them thrown. I've watched people throw 8-10s, and I'm sitting there with a tuma, as we call it, thumb up my ass, not betting. But I mean, it happens. But you got to make that decision.
Yeah, instead of show me the money, show me the numbers.
Right.
Yep.
All right.
How many tens can somebody throw? We don't really know, do we?
8.
Right.
I mean, but they can throw them.
By one shooter. 8 10s last night by one guy. 5 hardways. Thank you very much for the big fat purple chip that I won on that dude.
Yeah, I saw your comment over in the Discord, John.
Yeah, through great. Yeah, totally.
Yep. I did see that. Nice catching that long roll. We're always waiting for the long roll. Anybody else got a comment about?
John, did you qualify him though, or what?
With him, so I went out there. So that was a $10 table, and what I was doing with everybody was 64 across and 3 hits before I did any pressing, get half the money back basically, and he went 10, 10, 4 on his first 3 numbers. And I was like, press. And I'm like, this is going to be a big one. And he was a good shooter. I actually know him. And so I just went. That was one where I went table minimum and just never stopped betting.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a tactful. I've said this. How many times have I said? I'm on the table and I'm down to my last whatever because it got hammered around. And like you spend so much time like trying to get your money back that you don't make any money. So when he was on, like I think I had my 9 or something up to $50, and I collected on that one, which paid for the hand. And I'm like, and I told I'm not gonna tell you who was next to me, but I told the guy next to me, I'm just never coming down right now. I said, I'm just gonna go all the way, and we just did it. I went all the way with him, and it was a fantastic hand. He rolled like a 31 roller, and we made a fortune by not regressing on him. And I made a decision on him, saw his throw, knew who he was, and I said, I'm not regressing. So I did a couple of collects at target level, but I did not regress back.
Okay.
I find it interesting.
How much did you leave on the table, John?
Say again?
Hold it.
How much did you leave on the table?
Ooh, I think I left. Don't tell my wife. About 800, something like that. My 10 was a table max. My 10 was all the way up. I think my 10, or I was one hit away from table max on the 10. I think it was 350 on the 10. So the next hit was a table max hit at our local. But I had my hardway was at 50, and I got paid on that on the roll previous. And at that point, it's totally FU money. I went from $60 to like $12.75 in the rack, and still had the $900 out there. So
I find it interesting sometimes.
Sometimes you need to learn how to bet higher, John.
Well, his table won't let him get that. You only get a 500.
That's
I'll get back to you, Brian.
He never hit. He only hit 10. He only hit like 2 or 3 9s, 2 or 3 5s, couple of. I mean, my 6 and 8, I think I only had him up to $60. I collected one time; they were only at $60. He was hitting the outsides. But I could have been harsher on that 10, but I did collect a black chip, and then I collected 250, or I collected a black chip, then I collected 500, and the next one was going to be it. So it was cool. And when that happens, you're just like, thank God I was here for that, because how many times have I gone to the bathroom or gotten ticked off and played something else while that roll happened. You know, it was nice to be on when it rolls out like that.
All right. Brian, you were going to comment.
Yeah. Sometimes I find it interesting on like watching the shooter, yes, but also watching the dice. I mean, when I'm playing on Royal Caribbean cruises, they have this rule where if both dice don't hit the back wall, it's a no roll. And so the dice would like fall a little short, or maybe one of them will pop in a rail, and you see that it's a 10, a 6-4 10 or something, or falls short and it's a 6-4 10. Like so many times, I'll just hop the 10 and he'll come back to back, or somebody gets a point of 9 and they're rolling forever, but they can never hit that 9. They finally 7 out. The next person has a come out 9. Just following the dice and maybe hop those or something. I think not only following the shooter, but following the dice as well. I think, and not necessarily trend, but just looking at, hey, what is happening now? And I've made a lot of money on hopping the number that was a no roll. It's just strange how it happens.
All right. Anybody else about qualifying the shooter? All right, let's move on. Qualifying the shooter.
Actually, there is one more thing. One more thing, Jeff, with qualifying the shooter. One more thing about qualifying the shooter. Watch a shooter when they're shooting. Are they adjusting to the table conditions? For example, I was at a table in Dubuque, Iowa, the other day, and the table was rock hard, but the dice hit the back wall and they bounced off like a trampoline. So are you going to adjust your landing zone? Are you going to adjust your energy levels of your dice and watch the shooter to see what they do? Can they adjust their shot at the table to make the condition of the dice coming off the back wall favorable, to the way you play craps? So that would be another addition to qualifying the shooter, in my opinion.
Okay, no, I totally agree. Anybody else? We're going to move on to the next question. It's actually about random shooters and taking up stick left 1 or 2, which seems to be everybody's stick left, stick right 1 and 2, either left or right. I'll tell you one. It seems to be everybody's preferred shooting location. Does it bother anybody when you see a random shooter in those? I guess you could call them the most popular spots to shoot from for most people.
It bothers me, but what bothers me even more is when you have one person taking up 2 or 3 spots to stick 1 or at the left side or right side.
Well, I stay at stick left 1. Joe, you and I stay at stick left 1. We're taking up 1 and 2. We're taking up both spots.
Yeah, but you are correct in that. But you have some people that stand at stick 1.5, and they take up those 2 or 3 spots. You can't slide in on either side, and that bothers me. Especially when the table's starting to fill. If it's an empty, then that's their prerogative. They can do whatever they want, but they're just trying to block their area so nobody can sneak in. That bothers me, especially if they're not decent shooters.
All right. Does it bother anybody else?
Yeah, I'll put in my player's card, like right there at stick 1, and I'll say, do you want this spot or the other one? And normally they scoot over a little bit and give me 1, but I'll put my card in there or my money and just say, do you want this spot or you want that spot? If they're taking up more than 1 spot.
All right. Anybody else with a random shooter in left 1 or 2, and right 1 and 2?
That's why you practice from shooting from more than one location.
Yep. Well,
yeah, I don't think you can get too mad at them because a lot of them don't know any better. So I mean that's how I have to analyze it really, and why fault somebody that doesn't, but a lot of them don't know any better, so their craps etiquette is bad at best. So
I wouldn't even call it etiquette. It's not their fault. They bought in at the spot that was open, right? That's
right. Yes.
Moseyed up the table, and that's what the bummer of it is like you feel like you're out of your spot and like, you know, like I'm not very good from anywhere anyway. But when you feel like you're buried out at the hook and you're like, well, I didn't want to shoot because I'm going to be a train wreck after matter anyway. So you kind of like feel like it's a bummer for you personally, or like if you know somebody wants to be there and they can't be there, that's a bummer. I don't know if I would call it etiquette breach, but it's just like it's a bummer. You know?
I agree, Don. I mean, some people don't know any better, but some people that I'm referring to actually do know better, and they're doing that on purpose to prevent, people from gathering into those spots.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like you play with a group of people, and you have people protecting your landing zone. If somebody tries to sneak in, Jeff and I will elbow them out of the way so they can't sneak in. Again, that's going to be towards the end of the table, where it's less preferable to shoot from. But a lot of the people that I'm referring to, though, they do know the difference. The other night I was shooting, some guy kept on putting his chips right in my landing zone, and after I was done, if you guys ever see Brian Fliegel in the chats here, he made a comment. He was out visiting me. He made a comment. He goes, "Was that guy just being a dick to you by putting his chips there, or does he normally do that?" And I said, "He normally does that, I'm going to ask them to move the chips, that kind of stuff." But, like I said, that I was referring to, they do know better. A lot of them do. So.
All right. Anybody else that does it bother you? Nobody? Cool. Let's move on. Going back to a question for El Toro. If you unmute yourself, El Toro, this is a question from Shooter's Craps. El Toro, how do you handle random rollers, or do you play on a table by yourself?
No, I don't play on a table by myself. Random rollers. Again, it kind of goes by to what everybody else here is talking about. I guess you're kind of, everybody who wants to qualify a shooter. I actually watch the dice. I want to know what those dice are doing. Just because somebody can set dice and go through the motions doesn't necessarily mean they know how to throw those dice. I will typically not bet on everybody. I'll usually have to bet on the person in front of me and then myself. But, again, because I like to play, I'll usually play at the table minimum on other people, probably just a 6 and 8. Get myself down one twice, see if they can get past 4 or 5. But random shooters, no, I don't. I try not to play on them.
Okay. All right. We'll go up here to Mike the Bear's question. It's kind of probably might be a little small on the screen. I'm trying to weigh all the options on the pass line and the don't pass line bets that if the roll is a 6 or 8 to ask for no action, has anyone seen a player ask for that, and was it often?
If I'm playing the like an all day strategy, like 2 come bets and a don't come bet, and the point is 6 and my don't come goes behind the 6, I usually leave it there until one of my come bets hit, get that back, and then I'll pull it down if it's a 6 and 8. But normally I'll just leave it there if it's a 4, 5, 9, or 10. But again, that's like one of those strategies where you're just playing, come, don't come, don't come. So, like I said, I don't leave it behind the 6 and 8 too long, especially if the 6 is what hit to put it behind there. Because usually those 6 and 8 hits, I know that's probably controversial because people are like, never take down your DC, but I've lost too many DCs, being stubborn and not taking it down.
If you don't like it, just place it, right? If you don't like your $10 or your whatever, your $25 6, no 6, then place it for $24 and lock up a buck or 3. Like that's not that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Steal some money from them. But honestly, I always ask people this question: if you could place the 7, would you? If I gave you $10 and you could place any number on the table, which one would you place the bet on? You'd all say 7, right? You just placed the 7 with a DC bet. You got the best bet on the table. Take it. Let it ride out. If it doesn't work out for you, fine. But it's a better bet than the 6, even though it's only by 1. It's better. And if you're worried about it, then go grab the hard 6 and take one of those ways away and make it an even better bet. I would say I would never. I see people call no action, and I'm like, that's just not knowing math, like not knowing the education of that thing. And that's where I have jumped into teacher mode at tables when I see that happen.
I never take down a don't pass or a don't come ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Never.
Once it's
ever.
established, right.
I've never, ever taken one down. I've taken some odds down on occasion, but I don't ever place lay odds on a 6 or 8 anyway. I leave it as a flat bet. That's just me.
Yeah.
When you have a DCN, do you ever have do you ever place the bet as well, just to make sure that it doesn't?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Sometimes I should, but no, I don't.
Yep. Somebody else was talking. Somebody had a question or comment.
Well, I was kind of reading his question. It says he's trying to weigh in all the options on is the pass line and don't pass line. And if he rolls a 6 or 8 to ask for no action.
I think
some people take it.
I got to say it. I've got to say, on a pass line or don't pass line, I didn't even realize that was an option. So if that's an option, I just learned something new. I didn't realize you can waive off a contract bet there. Now I know you can.
It's only an option on the don't pass.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that not on the pass line. So
no, not on the pass line.
On a DC or on a don't come, you can waive it off. But on a come bet, you can't waive that off.
Correct.
So anytime that you're playing the pass line, so to weigh your options on it, I would say it depends on how you feel about contracts. I don't like them unless they're in my favor. If my money's on the table and I'm stuck and tied to it, I am out. That's why I don't do put bets unless I'm at table max and I've got to put something else out there because I know I'm going to just keep hitting it. But those bets are contractual.
I almost converted to a put bet last night when I was at almost max on that 10. I almost went put bet instead of paying the big vig. With the 10x table, $30-$40 as a base with max odds at 10x odds. Now you're getting better. You're getting better pay and no vig. I considered making that switch.
That's right. It's a good option to do when you're already maxed at your place bet. That is definitely a good option.
Yeah.
Question, El Toro. What are the max bets where you play normally?
On the tables, the max per spot is $1,000.
Okay, just was wondering what the max was.
Yeah.
Now I've seen. I want to comment on this question. I've seen some weird stuff, and I've seen different people play weird ways, and I have seen players do a Dewey don't, and then once the point is established, and then they'll play a C and DC, a come and a don't come at the same time, and let it travel, and then depending on what it becomes. So if the point becomes a 6, I've seen players take down just the don't and leave the pass line as a contract because they've got to. They don't have a choice, and they'll take down the don't, and they'll pull it off of the don't pass. But if the C and the DC travel, then if it's a 6 or depending on what the number is, I've seen them take down the don't on the 6 or 8, and they'll leave it on the 5 and 9, and then if it's the 4 or 10, then they'll either put odds. They'll put either extra. They'll leave the stuff there, and then they'll put either extra odds on the don't side if that's what they really like, or they'll put it behind the pass line for true free odds. I've seen people play that way. But I don't know if that's what that question is geared toward or not.
I don't know if it's geared that way either. I've seen people play that the way you're talking about, Dallin. And I just laugh and I just look at him and say, you've gone through the hardest part of running this money through the DC and you got the highest probability of cashing in that DC. Why on earth would you pull that down? I mean, number one, but two, it goes back to playing the do we don't, right? If you're playing a $25 pass and a $25 don't pass, net effect after you establish a point, unless you're putting odds on the pass line, then the place bet piece is the same. It's a win lose zero, net zero. Then I don't get that piece. I've never understood a do we don't. To me, that is just plain scary.
I don't understand a do we don't either, because it doesn't gain you anything other than when that 12 rows, you lose a little money.
That's it.
I'd rather bet on a $15 table. I'd rather bet, a $15 pass line and a $18 6 and 8. I'm going to win $1 or $2 regardless, if I can get one hit.
I I would say the do we don't for me would be if you're back when tables were all of a sudden, quarters or $20 minimums, you would play $20 on the pass line and then $25 on the DC on the don't pass. Your net difference there is $5, right? Now you've turned it into a $5 table. That's one way of looking at it. But still, to go through all the hassle of doing this, that to me seems like a waste of time. It's somebody who's afraid, doesn't know how to play this game very, very well, or is afraid of losing money. They shouldn't be playing at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, if I see somebody playing the do we don't, I bet the 12 because that's coming.
There's something else I was going to talk to about. I think it's Brian, right?
Yes.
So what I was going to say was, you say you play a lot on the boats, and they make you hit the back wall. If not, they call it a no roll, right?
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you roll a 7 and you don't hit the back wall, they'll take your money.
Oh no, that's one thing. At least with Royal Caribbean, they're very consistent. In fact, there's so many times it is a 7 and they say no roll, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!" And I turn off.
Get out of here.
I turn off sometimes because the next roll is a 7. It's just one of those things. The dice mock you like that sometimes.
I've never seen that. Every time I've seen him call a no roll on a short roll, the next roll that's short comes up a 7. They yank everybody's money.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really good about Royal Caribbean. They're very consistent with it, and a lot of times it is the point, and they say no roll, and that makes everybody mad. And then it's a 7, and they say no roll, and then everybody's happy.
All right. By the way, Mike did clarify the DC bet, and he also said he was just trying to weigh the options because some players don't know that they can remove a don't or a DC bet at any time. And I think so he clarified what was said, what you mentioned, El Toro, that you learned something. He just...
Anytime he's at a table with me, I'll buy his don't bet every time.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely, I sure will.
Yeah, because
you've already done the hard part right there.
He's already passed the sheriff and the deputy.
That's right.
Exactly.
He got shot at. He got shot at and got lucky.
How about making another equivalent don't right behind it and hoping for a better number for that don't and then taking the first one down?
Never take one down. Never, ever do I take one down.
No, I mean, if let's say you got, you put a don't down and it went to a 6 or an 8, you make another don't come right behind it. That ends up on a 4 or a 10. That's a better one. If you're playing a hedging strategy and you're trying to hedge,
well, that's how you make money playing the don'ts. Also, by the way, you want to. It's just like playing come bets, just on the other side, right? Most people will play come bets. They'll go out to 3 come bets. You'll do a place bet, then you run 3 come bets out there. You get paid on the place bet.
You've effectively traded out
and you're putting odds.
You've effectively traded out your not so great travel don't for a better travel don't.
Sure.
And until you
hit those 6s back to back.
Yeah. And then you're like, well, do I do another one?
I've never taken a don't or a don't come down in my life. Never will.
Yeah. When I play the dark side, when I play the don'ts, I let them travel. I let them all travel. I'll get as many out there as I can if I'm playing the dark side.
Give me 6 don'ts and then throw a 7. Yeah. I do count tosses when I'm on the don't.
I very rarely play the don'ts, but sometimes I do.
Yeah. When you play the don'ts, a good way to think is to have your don't come bet be half of whatever your don't pass is when possible, because that's one of the best advantageous moves for the player in my opinion, is to always have your don't pass be double of whatever your don't come is, and then when it travels, then you keep it at that level, then you could that's a very easy way to start really just racking in money, as far as I'm concerned. I hope that makes sense.
Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Well, one last thing, Jeff. People
Yes, sir.
forget that when you're playing the don'ts, and you got 2 or 3 don't comes out there, maybe with odds or not, you can lose only one bet at a time, but you can win every freaking bet you got out there on one toss.
Yep. Well,
So
Jacob said
that's
today,
the
on the
lure.
right side, in one roll, on the dark side,
You
can
know,
win
if you're betting on the dark side, you can only lose one bet at a time, but you can't lose them all on one toss. But you can win every freaking one of them on one toss. That's the lure of playing on the don't. That's why I don't ever take one down.
Right. And you can't be scared once you've established like a no 6 or no 8. You've got it's in your favor. Everything is in your favor now. So you can't be scared. You can't don't be a chicken. Just it'll
But you see it all the time. You get a point of 4. You got a don't pass established. Maybe you put, let's just say $50 lay odds on that don't pass. You do a DC. The DC travels to 6, and then all of a sudden you throw another DC out there, and they throw a 7. Well, you still ahead.
Yep.
Because all your other bets won. I mean, you lost your DC bet, but your DC on the 6 won, and your late and you don't pass one, plus odds. I mean, you just got to figure it out if that's how you're going to play. But don't take the damn bets down, because you've already beat the sheriff, which is the 7. You've beat the deputy, which is 11. And so you beat the sheriff and the deputy. You might as well leave them out there. It's stupid to take them down. If you want to take them down, let me buy them. I'll give you your $15 or your $20, and I'll take it.
Right.
The other thing about your DC players, a lot of them they don't have enough bankroll to really play it properly. That's why you see them waving them off. In my opinion, I've kind of learned. To me, the way I played that DC is, instead of, if it's a $15 table minimum, I wouldn't be running a $15 DC, right? And only delay odds of 60 on top. So you're looking at $75. Drop a $100 DC out there. It pays you even money 1-to-1 right off the bat, just like that. It's easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I play it. I don't really I wouldn't worry too much about putting odds on my DCs. I just play bigger DCs when I play.
Yeah, I do the same. If I'm gonna play the don't pass or the DC, I'm not doing that at table minimum. I'm doing it, 5 times table minimum if I can.
You're a smart man.
Least.
That's the way to play.
At least.
Yeah, that's the way to play it.
All right. Any other comments? Got a couple crapless questions here. I'm going to save them for just a little bit. Yeah, I know. So I'm just saving them.
You're going to save
we'll
those
get to
for John?
We're going to save them for John and Ed. So we'll get the good side of both sides coming up on that question. Let's see here. It's a good question from a good friend, Joe Ramus. If a thrower, a dice person, keeps hitting your chips even after you move them once or twice, what do you do with them? I don't know if he's talking about the dice shooter or the chips. But anyway, Joe, anybody want to take a stab at that one?
Is he a controlled shooter?
Your chips to a higher denomination.
Yep, hold on, one at a time. What did you say? Go ahead, John.
I said, is he a controlled shooter and I move my chips and he still hits them, he's not a controlled shooter, so I don't give a shit. That's a random roller.
Okay. El Toro, you had a comment as well. Yeah, it
I
is.
said if you're tired of them hitting your chips, why don't you just trade all those little small denomination chips to a big denomination chip? So instead of having $25 in reds, just put a green chip down there. Instead of having $100 in green, put a black chip down there. Now you've got one chip. You don't have a tower of anything.
Right. Right. All right. Anybody else?
Somebody's throwing into your landing zone. Why the hell you got chips out there to start with?
Yeah, but that wasn't the question. The question.
Well, what
question
he's saying is he's basically chasing your chips.
Right? After you move them, they still
If
hit
I'm
you
a
after you
stick
move
left
them.
one, why the fuck's he hitting my chips for?
He's a bad golfer. He's got no control.
That's what I'm saying.
Unless he's throwing from the don'ts.
I think what's worse is when you are shooting. I think what's worse when you are shooting. Oh, go ahead.
I was say if he's hitting your chips and you move your chips and he hits them again, what is that telling you?
That he's random.
Betting on the wrong guy.
He can't throw, and what you're going to say is,
you
John,
have chips on the
stop
table.
hitting my chips. That's what you're going to do, right? There's a good
worst part.
Nothing on that, really.
The worst part is when you're throwing. I think the worst part is when you're throwing, you hit their chips so they will move them, and they're oblivious and they don't move them. I can't stand that.
It's awful when you're shooting and you go like you're like, not that this happened to me yesterday, but it might have happened, where I'm like, hey, to my friend at the end of the table, can you have them move their chips for me, please? And he goes, hey, everybody move your chips. That's his landing spot. And they all move their shit out of the way. And what do? 7.
Chips anyway.
100%. Yeah. The guy like, he goes, this guy's serious. And I'm like, yeah, man, here we go. And it popped the 7 out. So, yeah. don't be that guy either, right?
Yeah, have somebody there to ask for you so you don't have to ask.
Well, you know, Brian,
the holy spotlight is on you, and you're like, oh, God.
But Brian, but you make that comment. They ask them to move. I mean, typically I play with a group or at least 4 or 5 people that are at the table at the same time for the most part when I travel. Locally here, it's not so much. But, we have somebody that will actually go down there and ask them to move them. And I would say 2 out of 3 times they will move them, and reluctantly so. They'll make a face at you, and like John says, then you roll the 7 anyway. But you could always ask them to move them. I've actually been at the table when one of our players have asked them to move them, and the player just didn't ask questions, move them. The box man said, "No, you have to put them back." Yep.
Yeah, I've seen the dealers. I've seen the dealers put them back as well. Yeah, I've seen that happen.
But all joking aside, guys, is this situation where teaching craps etiquette at the table, is that appropriate? Is that something that, some of us do, some of us don't do? Or do you just deal with that? That's a good question. How do you guys handle that at the table?
If you've got money at stake, it is in your best interest to teach dice etiquette or chip etiquette or even basic table etiquette to the person next to you or around the table. Don't feel embarrassed by telling somebody, hey, can you please color those chips down? Can you move them? Can you do something with them? There's nothing wrong with asking.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But
if they don't help you, then take your money up. Turn your bets off.
Mm-hmm.
It's only going to turn into disaster.
Yeah, I think those of us with channels and I mean, I think we could do a better job of teaching more dice etiquette, or just, I mean, some people, when they hear etiquette, they hear superstition. I mean, we're not talking superstition. We're talking about being polite. We're talking about just understanding, the game a little bit. And I think if we did a better job educating our viewers, then hopefully when they come to the table, there would be some people that would have more of a what I would call proper etiquette, that just knows how to play the game a little bit.
Here's the problem with that, Brian, is that we don't reach the number of people that's required to spread that etiquette.
Yeah.
well, most of our channels are 7,000 subscribers or less. Well, there's hundreds of thousands of craps players out there, and a lot of people don't even know there's craps on YouTube. Um, for that matter,
Yeah.
So the at the table discussion with these people. I mean, that's something worthy of discussing amongst us, and spread word out that, everybody listening in the chat right now, spread that word out, guys. We need to educate people around us. As long as I'm not shooting, I love educating people. If I'm shooting, leave me the hell alone.
But that's why
I did.
That's why I said
There was
my
so many
earlier
people
point
that
with that. That's why I said my earlier point with assuming that they're noobs, and they don't know any better, So that's where that comes in. So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, when they just don't know any better. They're sheep,
Yeah, sometimes people want to talk to me when I'm shooting, and they go, "Hey, how do you play this game?" I'm like, "You don't play the pass line because that's playing with the casino. Anybody that tells you to put money on the pass line, they don't know what they're talking about." But I'm shooting, and then they just stop talking to me. So, because everybody's always heard the first thing you do is put your money on the pass line.
All right. Anybody else? Nobody?
Yeah, you told a story about your 7 out right after asking to move the chips. The same story. I got a similar story. I was playing on this guy, just me and him on the table in Vegas, and he was shooting, and every time he was shooting pretty well. So every time he would 7 out, I would just pass the dice right back to him. Another guy comes up to the table. I Jedi mind tricked him. I said, "You, this guy's good. You want to pass the dice." So he passes the dice, looks at me, takes money, looks at his chip rack, figures, does the math, and goes, "Okay," passes the dice. PSO. So, yeah, it's the same thing. The karma will get you, I think, either way. But then, when they came back around to him, he did pretty well. So he ended up making money off the guy. But yeah, just sometimes you wonder if you interfere, if karma's like, "Oh, watch this, Murphy." That's Murphy at play right there.
I like to ask a question to the panel. Dave from CQ. Someone just mentioned this real quick about a designated shooter, or has any? I've never at the casino I've never seen somebody give up their thing for someone else to step in for them and shoot the dice for them. Has anybody ever seen that? But Dave from CQ said it is technically legal. But I've never seen that.
I see a wife shoot the dice for the man that's playing. I see that happen quite frequently. That they're playing out of the same rack. I don't know that it's proper etiquette or it's allowed at all casinos. But I've seen people step in to throw the dice, and typically it's the female with the male. Not that I'm trying to sound,
No, that's cool.
Discriminatory here, but we need more female players in the game, and I'd like to see more female players at the table. But I have actually seen that, Dylan.
Okay. Has anybody else?
And I think it depends on the casino.
Yeah.
I actually tried to do that in Blackhawk. I was playing on the table. The guy to my right was shooting pretty well. I don't like to shoot a lot of the time because I'm just random and I don't shoot well at all, especially if from where I was, which was all the way in the hook next to the dealer. And he said, he said, if you want, you pass the dice back to me. And we tried to do it, and the dealer said, "No, you either shoot." I said, "I can't designate him as my shooter." He said, "No, that's not a thing." And okay, well, so in that case, I'll just pass. And I passed, and they went to the next guy, who threw a great roll, by the way.
Well, you could establish a point and then pass it to them. That's one thing that's very unique.
We've done that.
Yeah, they weren't going to let it happen at all.
Wow.
I think it just depends on the casino. They just weren't going to let it happen. I said, so if my wife was here, I couldn't give her the dice and let her shoot. And he said, no, if you're shooting, you have to shoot. But like I said, I have seen that plenty of times in Vegas where, somebody else shoots for them. Or he said, now he did say, if you wanted him to shoot, you would have to pass, and then the whole table would have to pass, which I've seen tables do that as well too. Of course, somebody's on a hot roll and everybody wants it to go back to them. Of course, you do that, and then they throw a PSO in the next roll. That's just Murphy again. But
All right, we were in Biloxi. Ed had a fantastic roll, and Clay was shooting before him. And Clay established a point. I forgot how many rolls he done. Ed, you'd have to remind me of 1 or 2 rolls, and then Clay said that he was going to pass the dice. So we had planned it that way.
He established a point, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the best roll Clay ever had because I got to shoot next. After me.
He'd probably agree with you, too. He would probably agree with you. Oh, my goodness. All right,
that was a good hand. That was a great hand, actually.
It was a great session. One of few that I had that week. Guys, if you have any questions, again, capital Q. I see a couple of questions that have come in that haven't been asked in forum. So I'm gonna put this one up here from Stent Placer. It's for Ed and Toro. What's your favorite starting set? Regular table, not crapless. What is your go-to set? Either one of you.
I'll let El Toro go first.
3635.
What's that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
3635 is what I'll start with.
All right.
If I'm not playing the world, I mean, it's a tricky question.
It's a 3B set is what I'll start with. I'm assuming after I've already established a point is what he's asking. Yeah, right off the bat, for sure, because I'm playing the horn. I'll use the 6556. So I've got 11s on one side, 3s on two, 3s on the other sides, 12s on the outsides.
All right, Ed,
Yeah, so
you can we talk about the world? Go ahead.
I'll go with, well, I mean, if you're not talking about, the come out game, which I use a 6-2-6-2 inline sixes, then I'm going to throw a 2-1-2-4. That's my favorite set.
All right, so let's move on. Guys, we need some questions to keep the show going here before we get to the crapless questions. Yes, we do have some crapless questions here. Let me remove these from the queue. And we've talked about this before, and I saw some comments in the chat. This comes from Dice Emotion. How often will you have a great roll when someone is tipping you? I've only had that happen a few times with our group that we play with. We will tip somebody when they have a fantastic roll, or if they hit most of a 5 fire point or better, or get the whole ATS. But I've been tipped as much as a purple chip at the Atlantis, and I'm not going to tell the whole story again. But guy comes in, buys in for big bucks, and I go on a 31 roller, and after the roll was over with, I thought he was shaking my hand, and he had a purple chip in his hand that he gave me, and to my surprise, that's what I was up for the session.
The rest of the story goes, he had a room key he handed you later.
No, because I can tell you, El Toro, if he'd have handed me the room key, the lady that was with him was very hot. I'll just leave it at that.
And Jeff said, just the tip, please. Just the tip. Is that what happened?
Yeah. Always that way.
Yeah. You're right, though, Jeff. I think when we play with ourselves, God, that was too much. When we play with our group of friends, now I'm off the rails. No, we play with our group of friends, right? I have been tipped, and I do tip other players. I've never been tipped by anybody other than somebody from our various groups. I've never seen it. I've never been part of it. But with our groups, it's a kind of a common thing. I think it's a respect thing that we see a little more, and it's it's the gesture. It's not it's kind of a way to say thanks and I mean kind of a thing. So
I usually will bet for the dealers. I'll bet for the shooters. And then after a big hit, I'll throw some money towards the shooter as well.
Yeah, it's pretty common in St. Louis, actually, to tip the shooter if they really have a huge monster roll. Everybody around the table will throw something to the shooter.
All right. Anybody else on a tipping situation?
Well, the guys I play with, we make a joke out of tipping
Here
each
comes the
other.
dollar joke.
Yep. We
Go ahead, tell it.
keep $1, and when they hit the all, we'll stop the action real quick. As soon as they pay everybody out, and we'll go, "Hey, shooter, here's something for your trouble," and we'll all flip him $1 at the same time. But we want to collect those dollars. That's kind of one of those pride things. Who wants to be the one to collect the dollars? And I've had to write my name on some of them sometimes. But whenever somebody I don't know tips me, I give it to the dealers.
Okay. All right.
I have a really quick, funny story. Is I was shooting really well, and nobody was betting for the dealers, tipping or betting for the shooter, or tipping the shooter at all. And the table was packed. People made hundreds of dollars on my roll, and then I'm like, "Oh man, no love. Okay, let's pass the dice finally." And then I started left of me. I started, "Hey, for the shooter, and then everybody started betting for the shooter, all the way around. And by the time it got back to me, everybody lost all their money and left. And I'm there by myself again, shooting with no money coming my way.
All right. Yep. Anybody else? Nobody? All right. Here's a good question from Blaze. We're going to switch up just a little bit here on what we're talking about here. How to start an account at a casino so we don't have to carry around full bankrolls. Are there safes in the casino rooms safe? I've never established an account with a casino or a line of credit, so I can't answer the question. I walked out with a rather large amount of money I didn't want to be carrying, but anybody can help us here with setting up casino credit or an account? John?
It's not hard. I mean, the thing with the casino credit, how are you going to use it? If you're using it as a security feature, like not to carry big money, then you just go there. There's an accounting office there. You can set it up. They basically tie into your bank account. So you have to present a bank account that has enough money to cover what your marker is going to be. So you want 10K or 50K or whatever it is, you got to have that money in the bank. Go to the table, sign the marker, get the money out, pay it back when you're done. So you pull out 10K, you win 11, you throw them back the 10, the $1,000 is yours. You've got 30 days to pay it back. Otherwise it comes out with massive interest. But they will they're attached to your bank account now. So they will pull the money. So you got 30 days to pay it back. It's basically like a short-term payday loan kind of a thing, which is dangerous unless you're doing it for the purpose of, I live in Vegas and I'm not carrying money around. I'm just going to show up, sign it out, do my thing and get out of here, which I know a lot of guys do that. And I can see it for that purpose. But other than that, tread lightly. Super lightly, for sure. And the other question about the safes are safe. Just make sure that they're attached. I've been in a number of rooms where the safes were not attached to the wall or to the cabinetry, and they can walk out with the safe. Housekeeping could. So if it's not attached to anything, I'd make a phone call, and I wouldn't use it. I'm not sure if anybody else has ever seen that happen on their places before, but that's something I check.
Okay. Anybody else establish casino credit or a marker or whatever?
I do not use it.
All right.
I think you're better off having banks that are close to the casinos you use. If you're going to go to Vegas, use a national bank that's at your home and in Vegas. Make a deposit or just get a check.
Yeah. I use
one thing that's
credit, which is great. They're all the credit unions share a big network and they're easy to get into and out of as far as the ATMs go. But just if you happen to catch one of those Alfredo type wins, you're bringing out 15K. It's not fun to walk around with that in your pocket, especially when people see it. You know what I mean? I guess that's where the genesis of this question is And you can get security to walk you back if you're feeling squirrely about that.
Always ask for security if you got too much cash.
Yep.
They'll walk you to your room. They'll walk you to your car. Now, once you get in your car, you're on your own.
Yeah, but they are watching. People are watching that. When the table's going apeshit crazy, you know there's people watching. There's railbirds out there. There's folks watching. They will hunt that down. So you gotta ask for help if you're in that situation. No shame in that
Something
at all.
I find pretty interesting on a cruise, at least with Royal Caribbean, that I utilize a lot. It's not really a marker, but the you charge to your room and you have a credit card connected to your room. Well, you could get $5,000 charged to your room. It goes on your credit card as an entertainment cost, so it's not even a cash advance. And if you have a good rewards credit card, and that's the way I do it, I just use my rewards credit card to my room, which pays for my flights. I mean, on the cruise, it's a little bit different. International waters, I guess, but it's pretty awesome.
Okay. All right. A couple comments coming in. Corey says that there's no interest on credit lines. I assume he's talking about with the casino themselves. I don't know that is the point or not. But let's go on to another question. Let's go ahead and get. Sorry, Rock, for taking so long to get here. We'll go ahead and anyone played or like crapless bubble craps. I just saw videos of people playing them, and they now have the ATS on them. Yes, they do have the bonus bet on some of them, and they're moving more towards that. There is a crap load of crapless videos of just not just regular craps channels running crapless videos, but just people that have YouTube accounts that are now running a slew of them recording themselves at electronic tables. And I think that this has become a fad. There's one rather large casino channel that does a lot of crapless videos, and to my surprise, he does very well, and he runs quite a few of them during the week, so he seems to be very good at it. So anybody got any comments about the crapless bubble craps before we move on to crapless tables?
I haven't played that one yet. Is that the one with the 3 dice thing on it? That's
No,
the crapless. Is that what that is?
No, they. Well, we're talking crapless and craps. So the crapless bubble craps. I'm assuming I've not played that 3-1, John. I first heard that when you told us about it, maybe like a month and a half ago on the show here. I've not seen a crapless bubble craps, but I've did a bubble craps that I've seen. There's a lot of videos that are being shown on YouTube now.
What I've heard about the crapless bubble is that you can't buy the number. You can't buy the outside numbers. Now that's rumor. I don't know if that's true or not. But if you can't buy the outside numbers and it's only 2x odds, which they typically are, that's not a good game. That removes the advantage of crapless is buying the outside numbers. If you can't buy them and you're limited to 2x odds, you're not getting your dollar worth on that thing. I think if that's the case.
Okay. So there were some other comments come in here, and I actually just cleared the crapless questions, guys. I apologize for that. No. I knew you were going to say that, John. And I cleared the wrong one.
We want more.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to go back there. I'm going to have to go back there and actually search for those questions. Let's go on. Let's go to this one. This is the latest. The latest. What's that?
Can I search from the front end over here? I'm trying to see if I can search for you.
Yeah, you can. If you want, if you want to, you can. I'll go ahead and put this question up here. Craig from Old Bay Craps has joined us now, and this is the latest question I have. So I'm working backwards now. Question for the panel: how do you best go for it on a short roll if you're anticipating that the average short roll lasts 5 rolls? To me, 5 rolls would be almost average, but to me. I don't know. I'll let the panel answer the question. I might put my foot in my mouth and somebody might get mad at me. Anybody?
You don't know what the short roll.
I know we start. Yeah, you don't know, but I know we start off with the horseman strategy. Like I said, for everybody that I don't know at the table, or for those that I think are poor shooters. But instead of doing a don't pat it, I wait for a point to be established first. And then I go with a DC bet, then follow that up with 3 come bets. And like I said, I played that all the time. This last week I played 2 different casinos and treated me very well that way. You don't make a ton of money, but you still make a steady trickle of money coming in. And any money that you do lose is usually minimized. So that's how I normally treat a situation like that.
Okay. All right. Anybody else talking about short rolls? How you play them? Maybe we can expand out about on that.
There's an old philosophy in years back. Might have been Mad Dog wrote about it. CPR: collect, press, regress. That's it. Collect the first hit, press the second hit, regress after the third hit. So, I mean, that's really makes a lot of sense if you think about it. CPR, really easy to remember. Collect,
That
press,
is.
regress.
All right.
I think that's
old videos on that somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's good. However, if we're only playing one number, two numbers, they're getting rolls on the, like, you bet the 6 and 8, 5 and 9 hit, and then before you know it, you're still waiting for a 6 and 8, and they've already 7'd out. So I think that's the tough part about it. I'm starting to think, like, look at the table minimum and just decide you're going to go across, and then do the collect, press, regress, because you gotta hit one of the first two rolls, I would think.
Unless they
You see a horn.
PSO.
Yeah, if you see a horn, you're screwed sometimes. Like, can't make money on that.
Yeah, the bigger the net, though, it's the faster you can drown. So you got to be.
Well, it depends on your bank.
There's pros.
If you go across $10, 64 across versus $12 6 and 8, you're gonna win and lose the exact same amount of money. Like, you're gonna get burned for $64 less often than you're gonna burn the 24. But you're gonna burn either way, right? You just got to decide what you're willing to lose and put it out there. That's I'm coming to that conclusion anymore. I'm with you. Like, two bets out there is they're not going to hit and you're going to get burned as often as the 64 just gets blown out in the first roll. I'd rather take my chances than get a couple, 2-3 hits. If it's going to be a CPR, if it's going to be, I like to do a same bet and then a double tap on the number and get out of there. But you don't know it's going to be short when it's ahead of the time. You know what I mean? I'm just more recently. That's where my head has been. I'm just tired of I'm tired of wasting rolls. And I feel like if I'm not covered, I'm wasting rolls. And that's more frustrating to me than losing losing the across bet, I guess.
Yeah, I even tried getting all the hard ways and then hopped all the box numbers, easy ways, just to be. And it paid like $6 to go. Like $6 every hit. I'm like, if I get 2 hits, I get my money back, and then I'll put it up at $12.06 or $12.08. But yeah, you got it. It's crazy. That's the way the game of craps works. It's just one of those things where you have to have that risk out there.
All right. Anybody else? All right, guys, we're running out of questions. So if you have a question, now's the time to put it in. If you have a question for anybody on the panel, if you'd still like to join the show, you can. We're pushing up on the 2-hour mark of the season finale of season 2. This will be episode 19 for 2023. We appreciate everybody being here. We've almost hit 80 viewers and been steady in the 70 to 75 range for the last hour and 30 minutes. So thank you, everybody that's watching. If there's 75 of you out there, we can get a couple more questions in before this session on this season finale is over with. Anybody on our panel have a question for anybody that's here while I search back through these questions?
Well, I'll finish up on Old Bay Craps on this question. So if I'm reading it right, it says, how do you best go for it on a short roll? I don't know if you're trying to knock one out of the ballpark or not, but yeah, some of the comments are, if you're playing only 2 or 3 numbers, you're not really going for it. Go big or go home, kind of the motto there. You got to play for the short roll, play for the short game. I would say load up your bases and then you regress it right off the bat. Instead of CPR, do RPC or whatever you want to call it, regress, press, and then collect.
Okay.
That'll help get you in the money. But then, of course, if you're afraid of it because you're worried about a 0.7 out, then just stay off the table.
That's the thing. I was talking to a friend of mine. We did a Fireside Crafts recording the other day, and this exact topic came up, and he's a guy that plays 120 inside. And I said, so what's, given your choice, would you regress or just kind of go? That was the question. And this is kind of where the genesis of this one is too. And he's like, look, I put 120 out there and I'm willing to lose it. And if you're going to go out there and you're going to put 160 across for 2 hits and then regress down to 64, you're also willing to lose 160, right? You're willing to lose that for 2 rolls, right? And he's like, if you're willing to lose it, then just let it, then go. Either go or don't go. But if you're willing to lose it, and I think that's where I'm starting to lean in that direction now. Like you're saying, if you're not willing to lose that, don't put it out there, because if you're going to be a regressor, you've got to be higher than table minimum. And if that scares you, if you're regressing because you're scared of losing that bigger bet, don't put the bigger bet out there. So I'm more apt to go table minimum and just rock it. And the way that I play in 4 rolls, 4 box hits, I'm out with profit and playing again at table minimum, starting over again. I'm fine with that. You got to devise a way to play.
Interesting choice of words.
Say that again, El Toro.
I said I like it. Interesting choice of words. So I don't regress because I'm afraid to lose the money. Mm-hmm. I regress because I'm smart. I get out of the hand. I get out of the hand with profit right off the bat. Now, when I'm playing with my profits, I am pressing and power pressing till I hit table max, or I'm hitting the moon, one or the other. Mm-hmm. The difference between getting out of that game early and say building it like your friend is there is no exit off that table. You got 2 exit doors. Either you feel the 7 coming and you turn your bets off, which no one can really do all the time, or his exit strategy off the table is he lost everything he put on there. I will ask your friend, what do you do for a living? And I bet it's not playing craps.
Yeah, he's the wrong guy to ask. He's the wrong guy to ask, but the guy is stupidly low and doesn't care. And so,
well, yeah, if you want to play for fun, then you it's the same message from all of us as content providers is this: everybody watching, it takes a big bankroll to make a lot of money, and you have to be responsible with your money. Take whatever money you're going to take that you would literally wad up and throw in your toilet and flush it. And if you can do that, then you're in good shape with the amount of money you're going to take. But if that money is spoken for in any kind of way, whether it's a car payment, mortgage, electric bill, phone bill, whatever it is, you can't afford to take that money to the casino and try to parlay it into something.
No question. But I think the overriding point is this: if you're going to regress, let's just pick a pretend number, 640 across, take a hit, go 160 across, right? So you're way up and you're out of the hand at 1 roll.
That's right.
The best thing that can happen is that, right? The worst thing that can happen is that you lose to 640.
You lose 640.
Right? And you got to be willing to wear that. You got to wear that every once in a while. And the other thing that will happen is you'll take your 640, you'll lose it, and then you'll tie. And you'll tie, because most people suck, and you're going to tie, lose 640, and then hit the hammer every once in a while. And that's the cycle of that, right? So there's this frustration level of I'm always tying, because the one hit you win $15 or whatever, and you're in that kind of that grinder sort of I'm not getting anywhere, and then I get my ass kicked once in a while. You need the good roll to make it happen versus just putting a lesser amount of money out there and saying I'm willing to burn that lesser amount of money more frequently to make it happen. And I think it's just a mindset thing, right? And I think it comes down to looking at what your goals are.
There's more. You know what I mean? There's more to that.
That's where I'm like,
I think you're scratching the surface. So you're scratching the surface on something that Ed probably has seen this. I almost guarantee you that Ed has seen it and Brian has seen it because he's on a ship. The guys who win the most money are the ones that put up the most money. The guys that play at table minimum, those are the guys that bleed out very slowly. They stay at the table longer, but they will eventually suffer a very slow death, and a painful one at that.
Mhm.
It's just you're touching on something there that, again, the majority of the people who are watching our shows, they're not walking up to the table with $5 grand, $10 grand, buddy.
Oh, no kidding.
They're
Yeah.
just not. They're
I'm
walking
not.
up with $200-300, $500, at most maybe 800 to 1,000, because that's what they're comfortable going to play with. They're not going there to make a living. So how do they maximize that $300 buy-in, $500 buy-in on a $15 table minimum? How do you do that? Well, you're going to have to come in with, if the table minimum is $10, let's say per spot, double it up, right? You're playing $20 a box. When you regress down to 10. You're at table minimum and you've made some money. Not much, but you've made some money. Worst case scenario, you're out $124, 120, was it 128?
128, yeah.
Then you're out $128. Was your bankroll 20 times the amount you had on action? This is where the mistakes are always made. I'm walking in there with $300 and I want to go make 3,000. Unrealistic expectation, because you want to try to play $25 on everything. You don't have enough.
Well, and the worst part about it is they repeat it over and over. Same bet. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, trying to catch up. Yeah, they're
Right.
just trying to catch up.
But
They never get there.
This is the crux of the question, though, right? Because the average bear walking in for $500 or something less than 1,000, it's hard to be a regression player at that level of bankroll, because you got to go out to buy. Too much of your money at risk.
So that's what you have to decide what you're going to play. Forget all the strategy stuff, right? Forget the strategy piece, because no matter what strategy or what source you're going to play, none of that's going to matter if you don't know how to really bet. If you don't have enough bankroll, no strategy will outrun. Every strategy will outrun your bankroll. I think that's the best way to say this. If you're going to have action on the table, and let's just say you're going to play, what's the table minimums like where you're at, John? $10, $5?
$10, 10 and 5.
$10. Okay, so you want to play everything but the 4 and 10. That's going to give you what? 40 what?
44.
44 inside. 44 inside. So you play $44. That's going to be your action. Multiply $44 inside by 20. What does that give you? $880?
Yep.
Huh?
880, right? You're saying by 20? Yep.
That's what you're going to need to bring so that you can play effectively. That doesn't count.
Start at 88 inside, not 44 inside.
Well, if you start at 88, you got to go 20 times 88, so 1660 is what you got to bring minimum.
If you're going to be a regressor versus
action, if you're going to regress, and play the short game to its fullest advantage, bring 20 times the amount of action you plan on having on any given hand. So if you're going to be playing fire bets, bring 20 times your fire bet action. You're going to play the ATS, bring 20 times your ATS action. Whatever type of plan, strategy, or whatever you want to call it, whatever you're going to have an action at the table, bring 20 times that amount of action. Then what you can do is double it up, regress. Now you're out of the hand. You're not in any more danger zone. Call it after 1 or 2 rolls of the dice. You're okay. But if you do 0.7 out, you run into a guy that you decide you're going to bet on a random shooter, and all of a sudden you're out. Or let's say you don't bet on anyone but yourself, and you throw a 0.7 out. You kick your own ass for either 44 or $88. That does not kill your bankroll or the ability for you to come back from that. So you're not chasing your losses into a deep rabbit hole that make you go back to the ATM machine.
Yep.
One quick question: can that be applied to bubble craps at any time? El Toro.
Which the 20 times action?
Yeah, because people don't have a big bankroll to bring. So
That's right.
If they
Yes,
If they go to the bubble craps, but there is no there it's all random, So there is no.
that's right.
So that's what I'm saying. Is in your opinion, is it still okay to play the bubble crap since it's all random?
Sure it is. I mean, it's your bubble craps is there just to have fun and to learn. So when people come to me at the table and they say, "Hey, they're standing there," and everybody's had this, right? They're standing there. They're standing there. You kind of look at them like, "Are you getting ready to rob me or what?" And they're, "Oh, I'm just looking. I'm learning how to play the game." I always send them over there. You want to learn how to play the game, you're going to have to put your money on the table, but not this one. Take your money, take your $100 because you're going to try to buy in with $100 or $200. Go right over to that machine, put in $100 and learn how to play right there. As a matter of fact, you get Wi-Fi in here, go to Color Up, and they'll show you how to play. That's what I tell them, in a nice way, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I always
Bottom
tell
line
people,
is, it's a hard way to make an easy living.
Ain't that the truth? Yet, you're telling me.
I think El Toro would agree with that statement. It's a hard way to make an easy living. And if you think you're going to make an easy living, sit down and make a calculation on what your bankroll needs to be before you quit your day job and go play craps.
Yeah, 100%.
Mine, I need a $300,000 bankroll based on the math.
Depends on what you need to win.
Yeah,
depends
but
on how much
mine,
you need
that's
to win
mine.
every day.
Mine's $300,000. Y'all want to give me $300,000? I'll quit my day job and go play craps.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
right.
I've always said 10 times, but recently I've been telling people whatever the table minimum is. So if it is a $10 table, I would say that's 64 across. You're gonna need $640 minimum to step up to the table. And people, they look down at the $100 bill in their hand
Mm-hmm.
and think they're gonna do something with it.
Well, it's not. You're not trying. It's almost
the
in a
dumbest
sense,
thing.
you're not scaring them straight. You're not scaring them straight. You're giving them some reality, a reality check, which is, look, you're more than welcome to put your $100 or $200 down here, but don't set your expectations really low. You might lose it all in about 5 seconds.
And the dumbest thing is people betting on everybody at the table the same way. And that's where they lose their money. They've got to have
Strategies.
discipline enough to not bet the same way, the same time, every time somebody gets the dice on the table. It's ridiculous. And I see people do it all the time. I was fortunate enough to play about 3 or 4 days a couple 3 years ago with a guy named Charlie. I think Charlie's dead and gone. I've lost contact with him. I don't get any replies anymore. But Charlie's an old timer. Charlie was probably 80 years old when I was playing with him. He was the most disciplined guy I've ever seen play at a table. He would come down from the north and move into Biloxi, and he would drift between 2 or 3 casinos and just live there for about 4 or 5 months. But he had extreme discipline. He knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he only played at certain times of the day. And, he had his rules, and he played by his rules. And he was so disciplined, he would pull down in the middle of a hot roll because he'd reached his win limit. And people don't do that. I mean, Charlie was magnificent at his discipline. I was amazed at the discipline he had. Even when I was throwing a hot hand, he would come down. I was like, Charlie, you crazy? I'm like in the middle of a big roll. And he's like, I hit my win limit. I'm done. Then I'd hit the ATS, and he'd go, well, son of a gun, I should have been on it. But it's very, very ridiculous for people to take a bankroll and bet the same way on every same person at the same table all the freaking time. That 110, 220, 640, that's crazy unless you just got unlimited bankroll and just playing for fun. My opinion.
Yeah. And that can go with the bubble craps machines as well. You can't stick with the same strategy.
Nobody that is sane plays bubble craps unless you're Waylon. Waylon can play bubble craps. I cannot. Waylon can stand over my shoulder and I still 7 out. No matter what. Only time I've ever played bubble craps was with Waylon coaching me, and we still lost money.
Damn, I got a picture too. I wish I had it up.
Yeah.
Wish I get that picture up
somewhere. Now, yeah. I think bubble craps has a place. Don't you all think? I mean, I know you're saying that, but it's got a place. It's, low roller, learn how to play the game. Not safe, but it's like you don't got to go to a big table. A, be intimidated. B, burn a bunch of big ass bets while you're learning the game. It's a great way to learn the game and learn the flow of it and not get hurt too bad. It's got a purpose in that. Or if you want to test something out. Hey, I saw something on YouTube. I want to try it. Try it for $1. Don't try it for 25s, right? That's a good use of it to kind of get the feel of stuff. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
All right.
The hard part on bubble craps, I ain't played bubble craps much in my life. But since they've done away with where a bunch of people sit around the single dice,
agree.
That was the only machine I've ever had any success on. The little individual machines, I think they're rigged. My personal opinion.
I'm telling you, I'm with you on that one. And I've always felt like the one where it's in the middle, they can't screw everybody with the computer. But the one that's right in front of you, they can get you all day long. I totally agree with that. But don't tell David. He thinks I'm.
I think it's rigged.
I'm full of crap, but I'm telling you, those things feel rigged.
Since we're on the subject of bubble craps, let's talk about the new version with the 3 dice.
3 dice.
You played it?
Oh.
Yeah, 3 dice.
No, I'm gonna play it in January. I think it's at Caesars. There's been quite a few people posting on social media about it. It's 3 different tubes, 1 die in each tube. There's like a cover that comes down over the tube so you can't see the dice. Before the roll, you have to pick which 2 you're going to go with. They roll, and the things come up to show you what dice you are, and then what 2 you picked is your set.
Wow.
Yep. No, we talked about that a couple shows ago. Yep.
Yeah, selection every time. Now, my theory on how to play this is just pick the same 2 every time. But I'm interested to see, like, if you ran it, like what the math would look like on if you ran 3 dice. Would it be as random, and what would the structure look like on the pyramid and everything else?
It'll be random. It'll be like bubble. Yeah, it'll be like card craps. Basically, that's card craps is what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Now the question I have is when you pick the dice, does everybody that's around it get the same 2 tubes that you pick as the shooter, or they all pick their own?
Each player gets their own choice of tubes. So it's kind of like Stadium from what I've seen in the pictures, where everybody's around it. You've got your own console. You pick which 2 you're going to use, and then your guy next to you might pick a different 2. Guy over here might pick a different 2, but you're playing those 2.
Yeah, I feel like
my thing is the casino never does anything in your favor. So I think overall the casino is somehow added some more variance to the equation, and otherwise they wouldn't. Somebody got a nice bonus off coming up with this idea, I'm sure.
000 roulette and triple dice.
Triple dice.
Yep. All right. Wow, I missed a couple comments in here while I was looking for that picture. I actually had a picture of the 3 tubes, but I had to pull that one off the internet. Don't tell anybody. Let's see. We had a couple questions when I said we were pushing the 2-hour mark here. I'm going to save that one for probably last. Those 2 I'll save for last. Arnell makes a good point here. Let's think about this. There was a lot of comments made after this. The people teaching craps, how do you distinguish what's right and what's wrong, and way to play or way to toss? Because I believe there is no right way or wrong way, and sometimes it just whatever's working for you is working for you. Anybody have that commented out of that philosophy? I mean, I think Arnell raises a good point. If you're teaching somebody how to play, I think you should be on the fundamentals of the game and the math. Because I forgot how it was said the other night, and El Toro, you might have been the one that said it in the show with Ed and me about the things that you need to know to play. But with what I already dropped down. Sorry, guys. With what Arnell says there, teaching craps.
So teaching mechanics, I don't have a school. I know a lot of people said they want me to do one, but I don't have one. The way I've taught a couple of friends, including my buddy Mike, is I first studied his mechanics. What comes natural to him, right? And how do I improve on that, right? I can't force someone to throw the dice a certain way if their body just doesn't work that way. I, for one, like I said, I've got some fused bones in my wrist, and my wrist doesn't turn as like it should. So for me, throwing a overhead toss is a little difficult to do. Although I've been practicing, I can't flick the wrist. I've been kind of picking them up a little bit, but they're getting a little too high. And I don't want to throw them down there with quite that much velocity. So for me, the inline toss is still perfect for me. It works to my mechanics. It works to how my body moves naturally and organically. If I was teaching someone from ground zero, the very first thing I would do is ask them, hold the dice many different ways and tell me what feels comfortable to you, what feels natural. And then from that point, I'll start making small adjustments to where we can impact how those dice are leaving and how they're landing. That's the very first thing I would do when it comes to the mechanics of the throw and the toss. I won't worry about the dice set. I won't worry about anything. I just want to make sure that you're tossing the dice properly so they land flat on their faces. I can't stress that enough. Again, I've thrown many, many dice. You got to get them to land flat. It'll make a very loud sound, like you just hit the table with a hammer. But that's the very first thing. After that, then it comes to step 2 before you get into the casino, which is teach people how to manage their money. Teach people how to really manage their money. Are you the kind of, so we talked about this a second ago, right? They asked me, hey, what should we bring? You know, if you're going to go out and just go have fun, 20 times your action, that's a good number. That way you have enough to bail out. But if you're going to do this and you're trying to do this for, call it a second income or something, the real ratios are even smaller. You're never going to risk 20% of your portfolio, right? If you're bringing in a portfolio of, call it $2,000, 10% of that's quite a bit, right? 10% loss, because that's what you're talking about. $200, it's a 10% loss. 5% loss, $100. Do you really have enough? What you really want to try to do, I mean, this is just me giving you what I'm actually doing now, is you try to keep yourself to like a under 3%, because you're going to have some losses. Do you really want to lose 10% of your portfolio right then and there? Not really. Try to keep yourself under 3%. That way, if you do get into some trouble, you can get out. Now, don't go chasing your losses, right? Know when you're on, know when you're off. Sometimes you just got to walk away, come back another day. Nothing wrong if you took a 3% loss and walk away and said, okay, I'm a loser today. Go back home, figure out what you've been doing wrong, get back to the tables. That's what I would do, step 2. Then that's that money management type part of the discipline. Third, I'd actually start going over how to keep your mind right and how to not go off on tilt. Because if your mind isn't right, you're stressed about losing, it's going to translate all the way through your body. No matter what happens, you will never throw those dice well. Ever, ever, ever. Your mind's got to be right. If it's not right, it's don't even bother, right? If you're just wanting to go there just to learn how to throw the dice really quick and just go have fun, sure, that's not too hard. But just know you're going to lose whatever money you put on the table. That's kind of how I would do it.
Okay. Anybody got any comments?
The question of, can you say the question again? Because it's not just about throwing dice and betting, but it's just overall teaching somebody how to play craps, because I don't know that there's ever a right time to ever buy in when the puck is on. But I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that. But if I was teaching somebody for the first time, first thing I'd tell them is, if that puck is on, those people are playing that game and you're not. Wait until the puck's off so you can enter into the next round or the next hand. That's probably the first thing I'd tell them.
All right.
Right.
I think the question was about teaching people how to toss the dice, wasn't it?
I
I couldn't tell if it was tossing or playing.
It says
I think the question was just about teaching people in general, period. Whether it's tossing, whether it's betting, whether it's whatever. How do you teach people? How are you kind of qualified to teach people? On how to play the game.
He says distinguish what's right and wrong between play or toss. So he's talking about playing and tossing is how I took the question.
Well, the best bet's no bet. So keep your money in your pocket and you ain't going to lose it. Right? Teach people how to bet. I mean, shit. Don't watch YouTube is my first thing, because you're going to learn how to lose money real quick if you watch YouTube and you try it in real life. But I've taught people how to play, didn't have an index finger, how to toss. I mean, so it's different. I mean, it's like El Toro said. He was talking about people with different comfort levels of being able to grip the dice and how to toss them. Some people need a 3-finger grip. Some people need a 2-finger grip. Some people need a claw finger grip. Some people need a pinch grip on each side. It depends on their comfort level and where they like to toss from. So there's a lot of different variables in place, and you've got to find somebody that can teach you. If you're going to learn how to toss, you've got to find somebody that will teach you how to toss the dice with your particular, whether it's your handicap, or whether it's your body build, or whether it's just your natural motion that you use. I mean, some people need to grip them on the cut edges. Some people need to grip them on the flats. Some people need to stack them. There's a lot of different ways to toss the dice, but you've got to find people that will teach you the correct way. That's the hard part.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, if I was talking to a newbie, if I had the top 3 things to say, a lot of it is just walking up to the table. That's why I brought up the buying in when the puck is on versus when it's off. The other thing I'd say is when the dice are out, there's no more bets. And when they say dice are out, that means no more bets. And then finally, I would say you don't need to bet the pass line unless you're shooting the dice. Those are the top 3 things I would try to make sure a newbie learns and knows. But maybe, other people have different thoughts about that. But that's just that's what I would teach and say.
I like showing newbies a pass line because it's a simple way to understand the rhythm of the puck without getting in trouble. Like, that's a good way. But my question is, and this is more, I don't know who to answer this question to, but a lot of things got rattled off there by everybody, right? And I think we can safely say that, like, a gambling 101 thing is bankroll management, your mindset, all those intangibles, right? Or not, I guess bankroll's not intangible, but all the things that don't have to do with the game. More important for somebody new, and etiquette is part of that group of things I don't want to talk about. More important to learn how to bet or how to throw at the early stages. Because I'm a believer, learn the payouts, learn what the bets are, learn the game, learn the rhythm of the game so you know how it all works. And then that throw is an enhancement to all that, right? But would you say, it sounded like you were saying, Toro, that you might want to look at throwing first and getting the mechanics down and feeling the game from that side of the table before you go out there and try and do things versus teaching the game. And again, all the other stuff kind of becomes part of that. the bankroll and everything else in your mental state. But do you teach throwing first, or do you teach the betting first? And for you and Ed and the guys that have some longer years here with this, dive into that for me. Skill, you too, Jeff.
Again, I'm not a teacher. Unfortunately, I'm not a teacher, right? But I wasn't a good student either, for that matter. But I wish my teachers would have taught me the way I wanted to learn. I got a feeling that most people who watch these shows are real similar to me. You want to learn first how to throw the dice. That's the very first thing most people want to learn. Because if you lose them with etiquette, you lose them with how to bet, you start giving them too much homework, they lose focus. I think you do a little bit every time. And I think really starting out with the fun stuff, which is the mechanics of it, comes out to be a little bit better. Because most folks who are watching this right now, they're not beginners by any means. They all go to the casino, the majority of them. They all are sick and tired of losing money. Whether it's $500 at a given outing or $200, whatever it is, no one is winning consistently. And I think they're sick and tired of it. And that's what they keep coming back for, which is looking for those nuggets that we can give them. And I really feel that most people are trying to emulate tosses that they see on YouTube or they read about in books, or if they still have them in books anymore. But I think they're trying to emulate something. And the monkey see, monkey do method, that doesn't always work for everybody. I can't throw that toss. There's no way in the world I can throw that. It just doesn't work for me. I think if you find the individual's mechanics, work and improve on that, you're going to see a little bit more positive results from a player standpoint, because now they're not trying to do something that's not comfortable for them. They'll see a little bit more success. With that success comes a few less losses. Now you take step 2, in my opinion, which is, now let me really teach you how you should be betting. Forget all the systems. Forget all these strategies with all these goofy ass names. All of those things are horseshit, if you want to know my honest opinion. Go learn how to play. Forget all these names. Quit trying to coin your own thing. It doesn't work. Go in there and learn how to play. Teach someone how to play, how to bet, how to maximize their dollars. There is no name for that. Now from
That's
there,
what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Teaching how to bet, what the bets are, all of that.
That's part of learning. That's part of learning how to play. That's part of learning how to play. Because if you get a brand new dealer and he doesn't know how to pay you properly, you've got to be able to know not to pick up your money first off the felt.
Yeah.
You look at it, move your coins around, move your chips around, your checks, move them around and go, and look at the dealer and go, is that right? You don't tell him, hey, you short paid me. Pose it more like a question, right? Is that right? Then they'll look at it and go, oh, shoot, you're right. Oh, hold on. And then they'll pay you properly. Usually, if it's a new dealer, the box man right there, or the center guy, the box guy, is going to basically catch it beforehand. But that's part of learning how to bet, learning how to play. Then from there, the mental game, which is, can you detach yourself from the dollars? Can you separate those dollars and what they mean to you? Because again, most people bring more money than what they can afford to lose. Most people bring more money than what they can afford to lose. And that's a problem. I see it, John. I'm telling you, I see it more times than
I see it.
You know.
Oh yeah. I watch people at my local casino buying for, like I say all the time, they buy for $187. And they just came off the job site with their cash buying it.
That's why I kind of look at things a little differently. I look at things a little differently. Because, and again, as a content provider, I look at it differently. I don't merchandise. I don't sell. I don't do any of those things. I provide content for free because I'm tired of watching people lose money. I'm tired of watching people do goofy shit on the table. I just really am. And what I've learned was through the school of hard knocks, and it cost me a fortune. The only other person I know of that's probably purchased an education like I have, that I haven't met, but I know, is probably Gargoyle.
Yeah.
We've had a stellar education that's paid for. Now what we're doing is paying it forward. That's what I'm telling you. You may not agree with what I say, and we'll always agree to disagree. But I can tell you, come with me for a year. Quit your job and come with me. I'll show you how to play. You play your way, I play my way. I wonder if you'll really make 12 months. The answer is no. You won't. Not because you're irresponsible, not because you're you. It's because you don't have that mindset yet. You don't understand what it really takes to move forward in playing. It's like what Ed was saying. For him to do it, he's going to need 300,000. Probably. It's harder than you think, and that's why
I know.
Looking at all these things, it really drives me insane. I hate to say that, but it just does.
Nope. All right.
Yeah, you got a lot of customers there, Toro.
Yeah.
I what?
A lot of sign me ups out there. It's awesome.
I just looked at my channel. I went from 5,000 to 5.
I doubt that.
I went the wrong way. Damn.
He is nailing. He's putting the nails right there in the coffin for folks. I mean, he's 100% correct. If you don't, for me, and I think for El Toro, I'm not going to speak for him, but if you don't know how to toss, then you're just gambling, because then you're betting on yourself like you bet on everybody else, and that's the wrong way to play this game.
You'll win.
You got to learn
right?
how not only how to bet it, but you've got to learn how to shoot it and take advantage of your own self or other known shooters that you're playing with. And you got to realize everybody's going to PSO, but you've got to know how to bet this thing. If you don't know how to bet it, you're not going to win it.
This is what casinos are built on. Casinos are not built on I guess part of the wing used to be built on people like me and Gargoyle. But then we kind of put ourselves in check. Now the only thing the casino buys with my money is usually the drinks, which I guess is sometimes this is expensive. But the rest of the hotels and all the machines and all that are built by everybody else watching this show. Everybody donates money, including me. The problem is that I don't donate it as frequently as everyone else. So you'll get lucky, and you'll turn a $200 you'll turn in a $200 buy-in to maybe $800, maybe $1,200, and if you're really lucky, turn it into $2,000. Now they just put the hook in you. Now you're going to come back thinking you know what to do. You're going to bring. What if I were to have just only brought 1,000 and doubled up my bets and tripled my bets? They're counting on you to do that. So now when you go there that next time, that $1,000 that you think you were going to parlay into $4,000, you turned it into zero. You owe the money. You got to pay to get your Uber to get home, but you can't. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to stop.
I've challenged people before. The hard part is getting you bankroll. First thing is build you a $10,000 bankroll. All right. Then what do you do if you go on a weekend trip and you carry 10,000 and you come back with, let's just say you come back with 12, which is okay. That's a winning session or a winning weekend. You come back with 12. What do you do with that $2,000? Well, if you go and blow it, you're doing the wrong thing. Take 1,000, put it in your bankroll, take 1,000, pay off some debt. That's my opinion. Okay. So then you go back with 11,000 and you come back next time you only come back and you come back with 10, you lost $1,000, or you come back with 8. Well, then you got to come back and you got to work it back to 10, but at least you don't have as much debt as you had the first time. People want to just play out of their pocket. They just want to play out of what's out of their paycheck, or they just want to play out of something they've saved up for 2 or 3 months just to go play with. Those people, they're either going to get really, really lucky or they're going to lose it all most of the time.
That's why on cruises, the advice I give to people when they're trying to win or earn a free cruise by playing craps on a cruise, a lot of times people are, wanting to win money. And I'm like, well, what you want to do is figure out what does the cruise cost? And if it costs, $2,000 or $3,000, don't bring more than $2,000 or $3,000, because if you lose everything and then get a free cruise out of it, you just prepaid for your cruise rather than bringing. Because I've also seen people, they have a max charge to your room, $5,000 a day, 7 days. I've seen people max out their buy-in and spend $35,000 on a 7-night cruise, and at the end of it they're like, I just got a free cruise. I'm like, no, you just paid $35,000 for a $10,000 cruise.
That's why I tell all my hosts that call me, I don't pay to go gamble. You want me to go gamble, you got to get me there, and you got to provide what I want when I get there. Otherwise I ain't going.
All right. Got a couple more questions here, guys, as we're going to wrap up the season finale. It's turned into be a really good show, I believe, of season 2. This is episode 19, the finale for 2023. I'm going to go to a question from George from CY. Good morning, George. It's morning over there. Do you guys believe in cold tables or contributory negligence on the part of the shooter? I like the way the question was worded. I don't quite know how to answer it. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
I'll have to go to Google and figure that out.
John?
That's funny. I don't believe in
negligence.
Hey Siri, what does contributory negligence mean?
No, seriously.
I don't believe it's just you're making the table. Like, can somebody make a table cold? Right? Yes. God, how do I say this right? I've said this before. Like a bad controlled shooter is worse than a random shooter. I think we can all agree on that. If you're trying to have a controlled shot and you suck at it, you're worse than random. That's contributory negligence. You're making the table get worse than it is. But in a random world, no, I don't believe in cold tables. And you guys all know that. If it's 8 people throwing random and me, the table cannot be cold.
Okay.
It can be awful.
Yeah,
it used to be cold, but it's not cold right now. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I don't believe in cold tables either. A lot of times people walk up and they're like, how's the table? I'm like, it's a craps table. It's like a craps table would be. Jump in, see what happens, And then the other part of it is when it comes to like you use the lingo like, hey, let's warm the table up. Let's get these dice hot.
Mm-hmm.
You say that, but I don't really mean it when I say it. I mean, I think, as a hot shooter, or a cold shooter, I think that's just some terminology but really, I mean, we talk about throwing dice. We were talking about learning how to throw. But I think betting, if you learn how to bet, it doesn't matter who's throwing if you get out of the hand as soon as possible. I mean, that's the key, is to get out of that hand.
All right. Anybody else? Wrapping up some questions here. One from Bam. Can you play for a living and not live in Vegas? I think the key there is, can you play for a living? There's only a few that actually make a living at it. When I say a few, based on the hundreds of thousands of craps players.
I'd say
And-
Vegas is the worst place you need to live
Yes.
if you're going to play for a living.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting ready to
You can do
say.
it. You don't want to go to a place that has casinos set around like 7-Elevens. You'll lose your money. You'll have a tendency to go too many times, too much frequency, and then you'll be chasing losses too fast without being able to stop, think about what just
Love
happened.
it. Yep. All right. I think that was really good good advice. I'm kind of leery to put this one up here because we're talking about bankroll builders again over time. So Dan asked, I'm looking to build a bankroll over time. What are some basic crap strategies with good odds that you find effective with a $300 to $500 buy-in? I'm not a strategy light-sided person, so I can't answer that question. But maybe somebody else may want to take a stab at it.
$300 to $500 buy-in, 0.
Thank you. Yep.
You got to be Mr. Discipline at that level. Like, you got to be cool with like driving and winning $50 and going home. Like that, and maybe once in a while during the process of winning $50, somebody has a hottie or they hit a leg for you. But it's hard to build a bankroll from $500. It really is. You got to be willing to grind $50 out of it, $80 out of it every chance you get. You got to leave. If that's your goal to build a bankroll, you got to leave when you're up. You cannot be sitting out there forever. If you're trying to felt the table, it's a whole different ballgame. But building a bankroll from that level is really, really hard.
Yes, it is.
Trust.
And I think we've all tried to do that, John, at one point when we started out. You know, go every day with 300, 500, 600, move it to 1,000, move it to 1,200, go to 15, go to 2,000.
Yeah.
And, you know, we always hear a lot of great craps players that we know, including some YouTubers and non-YouTubers, say, you know, if you want to win big, you got to bring big. But you also hear them say that scared money wins no money.
Well, and there's a spectrum of that, right? If you want to win big, you got to bet. You got to be willing to bet. You can't play passively if you want to win big money. You just can't, right? And if you look at my daily paycheck show, day 95 now, 96 is tomorrow's show. 96 days of playing that thing, 10% at a time. Buying in for 10% of my bankroll or my master bankroll and winning 10% of that is what we're talking about here. It's taken me 96 days to double the bankroll. And that's hard freaking work. It's a bitch.
Yep.
And $500 buy-in, you got to have 5K in your bankroll to start. If you're going to play the 10% game, it's hard. It's really hard. And Ed said this earlier, like nobody's got the sack to get up and leave when they're up. Like that's the biggest difference, right? You got to be willing to leave. If you're going to build a bankroll, you got to have the balls to walk out when you're at anything. 10, 9, 8, 11, 12%. You got to be willing to leave to build a bankroll. That's what there's no strategy that gets you there. The dice have to hit the numbers you're on, and you got to be willing to walk away when you're up. When you have bigger money and you're trying to do different things, like your goal is not to win 10%, your goal is to felt. Different. Regress and hammer, like Tora was talking about earlier. That's how you do that. But there's no magic pill. I wish there was a magic pill. You know, I find that the horseman works great. I can win 10% with the horseman all the time. You know, and you got to be willing to walk. You got to be willing to get out of there. You know, and be close enough to a casino that you can do it on the regular, and not tell me that it's not worth my gas money to win $50. Well, then your $500 isn't enough to buy in with then, or your goal's too high. One of the
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's about a percentage thing. And so when you have your percentage and your bankroll is only allowing you to get a few numbers and not all of them across, and you're working off percentage, man, it's really hard. Really hard. If you're looking at table minimum to try to get some percentage off of a table minimum is not, you got to go up higher and you got to get all the numbers.
Yeah, there's a little
building
more
a bankroll
to that.
is soul crushing. It's so freaking hard. It is soul crushing to try and build a bankroll 10% at a time, 20% at a time. It's really, really taxing, mentally taxing. It takes a strong will to do it.
So there's a little bit more to how to build a bankroll, and no one's hit on it. We're all hitting around it, but we haven't. I don't think we've hit the bullseye. So building a bankroll, if you're planning on building a bankroll with $300 to $500, it's never going to happen. Everyone said that. Think of it, building a bankroll, much like building your financial portfolio. You're constantly adding money to that bankroll, whether it's $100 or $200 at a time, whatever it is, keep adding to it, keep adding to it, and keep adding to it. As you start getting more and more proficient with how to shoot the dice, how to play the game, how to place bets, it gets a little bit easier because you're not as stressed. You're seeing your bankroll continue to grow, and it doesn't have to grow just on what you get at the tables. You can continue to add to that bankroll as long as you're disciplined enough not to go and lose it on your first outing. That's the tricky part. Now, Ed happens to manage or basically build portfolios. Ed, if someone gave you $10,000 right now and set the expectation that in 5 years you want it to be $100,000 or $200,000 without ever contributing again, how hard is that? And how much easier would it be if they were to keep contributing $1,000 a month?
They gotta keep contributing. There's no doubt about it. The other thing that nobody's mentioned is having a loss limit when you're going to walk away. If you're going in with a 500, what's your loss limit? Is it 500? Shouldn't be. Should be 250, 300. I mean, if you've got 250 to 300 in your rack, you need to walk. If you bought in with 500,
20% max stop loss.
I mean, you got to have a number. You got to have a number. Whatever the number is, you got to have a number. I mean, one of my favorite, I don't know if you want to call it a game or whatever, is let me buy in for 300 and see if I can make 500. If I can make 500, I'll walk. That's kind of a fun thing to do, but you can buy in with 3,000, make it 5,000, whatever add zeros all the way up. But people got to have a loss limit. You got to have a loss limit. If you walk away with zero, then you got no bankroll. And I'm a big proponent of never giving a casino every dime I just bought in with. I'm always going to buy in for more than I'm willing to lose.
That's our mindset, though. So, Ed, you and I have a different mindset than most, I think. Again, to build a bankroll, you have to always be contributing. There's no other way around it. But if you're taking $500 with the expectation to double it up, that's pure luck. It may or may not happen. Mm-hmm. And you got to think about it just like your investment portfolio. Most of y'all have 401ks. Think of it like that. Every time you get paid, you put a little bit away. You never look at it again. Well, that becomes your 401g account. You just keep contributing to that bank account. Keep contributing. Little by little by little, it'll eventually add up. Then as you start to get proficient and win, put that money back in that same account. Watch it grow. Now take pride in the fact that you're learning and you're building it on your own. Sorry.
I take dribs and drabs from side hustles and filter that in there as well. Like, I don't build it just from gambling. I build it from other things too. So it helps that thing grow a little quicker. It's like you're saying, it's constantly dripping into it. I got a question for you guys, because you both said the same thing about stop losses. A YouTuber that we all know, Ken, used to gamble for a living, and his contention was always that if you're going to consistently win X every single day, you're playing for your rent, like that's your job now, that negative progressions are the way to do it. And Waylon in the audience, is the negative progression guy, the ladder system guy. That requires almost no stop loss. You got to bring it so you can get to the level you need to get to on the negative stuff. Play it as long as you've played, right? Bring your wisdom into this, right? Talk about that
negative. What are you
negative
saying?
progression?
Negative what?
Negative progression, like a
a
ladder system or a martingale or something like that, where you're chasing the loss, but you need massive bankroll to get those bets high enough to cover the previous losses, right? Guys that like I said, Ken has said that's the way to do it. If you're going to earn 10%, 20% a day on the regular, that's the way you do it. And Waylon has a lot of strategies like that as well, where it's
Why is he
negative
still
chase,
not?
but
Why
you
is he?
can't have a 20% loss on it on that, right?
I disagree. I'll have to disagree with it, because if that's the way to do it, then why isn't he doing it, or why didn't he do it?
Yeah, on his channel he'll talk about it, but he has said things like it's just
That's right. That's exactly what I'm talking
he
about.
grew to hate gambling. He grew to hate the grind of it, and he's like, this was no longer any fun. It became too much like work, and hated it. But like I said, the teaching that he put out there was that Marty, or that negative progression, is the way to consistently earn that small tiny bit all the time. And when you talk about stop losses, those strategies you really can't have a stop loss on, because you need the massive hammer to survive the cold times during your sessions. And so I think it's interesting, right? When you talk about,
have to find tables that are going to exceed a martingale for 7 to 9 times.
for sure, taking that out of it. I mean, we all know that, right? I think any negative progression.
Yeah, but you can't
Can't
take
take it out of it, John. It's there.
You can't take that out of it because it exists. That's real.
I know it exists, but wind it back though. And the heart of the question is this. Again, I don't care about the limits. It's about the mindset. When you said have a strict loss limit, right? And Ed said I'm never walking away with less than X, right? And you're saying the same thing, Toro. Mm-hmm. And the guys who play the negative progressions, I don't know that they can subscribe to that. And that's why I'm asking it kind of just as a generalized question. If you're going to play that negative chase the loss kind of a system, and you can't have a loss limit because you need to be able to ladder the bets higher. How do you I just talk about that? And again, the table limits the table.
That I understand. You know, so that I understand.
Yeah.
I think maybe you said it better the second time, or maybe I just opened my mind a little bit more. I think it could be both, right? I think, and so that everybody knows, John and I get along just fine. I know it seems like sometimes we go back and forth, but we get along just fine. Points of debate are great. I don't believe, and this is me, I don't believe that anyone who does a martingale system, or what you're calling some kind of negative progression, I don't believe that is the way to do this for a living, and it is definitely not the way to play the short game. Because if you're trying to play a short game to do it, it ain't going to happen. It does one thing: it'll keep you at the casino a lot longer than most. That martingale system doesn't work. It doesn't work. I hate to say it. It does not work. That's why you have table limits put on these things. If it worked, everybody would be doing it. Even me. I'd drop $500,000 on that table and start martingaling all the way to the moon if there was no limits, because I'd never lose mathematically. So now we're talking about, you and I talked about the other night, right? We're going to try to quantify this with mathematics. Now, mathematically, can it be quantified? Sure. But is it realistic? No, because there's too many different variables that skew the math in the favor of the casino. And I think, John, I don't know if you're working at a casino, but you can ask the person who you talk to and say, why isn't anybody martingaling? Mm-hmm. Or why do we have limits? We know the answer. All of us know the answer. We all know the answer why. But like Ken, nice guy. I've never met him. He's funny. I like his energy. But I look at this and go, man, if that's the answer, if that was what we're looking for, the holy grail of casino strategies, all in all, whether it's blackjack, baccarat, roulette, craps, whatever, if that was the holy grail of strategies, then good God, why are we all not doing it? Because it doesn't work. That's why.
Right. And Ken would say to you, and I know this, I've asked him this question a million times, it's not, he doesn't do a strict to the ceiling martingale. He's got limits on it. He has rules around how he plays it. And Waylon's got all sorts of rules around how he does his laddering systems. And I guess, like I said, the heart of the question for me is about, like, just your thoughts on loss limit with that.
But you're saying it's a grind. You're saying it's a grind.
It's a grind.
So here's what the grind is. So let me tell you the truth. Let me tell you the truth about what this is. Hard truth. Are you ready?
Of course I'm ready.
Perfect. The hard truth is, you take your first loss, martingale, 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 martingale. You could be there for hours on end to either break even or maybe make $100 over a period of, I don't know, call it 4 hours. Is that worth it? No. Hell no. There's better ways of playing this game to make a really good amount of money.
I'd like to just
agree.
interject. I like to interject the thought of, because we all talk about don't bring more money than you're willing to lose. Perhaps maybe we shouldn't be thinking about the money, but thinking about the amount of hands we're going to play or the amount of time we're going to play. And at the end, assess what your investment was, a plus or a loss. And so that's what I do. I do 10 shooters, 10 hands, and then I look at my bankroll and then I divide that by 10 for the next 10. And sometimes I'm going up, sometimes I'm going down, sometimes I'm pulling the profit aside and then just playing with the original bankroll with the, being able to leave up if the next 10 hands go well. But I'll also look, has it been an hour? I think that's where maybe I'm thinking about it a little bit differently, because I don't think about it as money. I think about it as hands and investment and return on that investment.
All right. I think this last 20, 25 minutes we've been talking about this is an outstanding conversation. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm watching the chats.
Hang on one
Go ahead,
second, Jeff.
Joe.
I'm not trying to poke a hole here, Toro, but just so you know, I'm not trying to even go after you at all.
No, I know that.
My question is purely about the loss limit, right? Because
So, yes,
I always find this.
you're right. I forgot to answer that part.
Yeah,
So
if I'm going to buy in for $1,000 and lose only 20%. I get what you're saying. For the right side player, that's what you're doing. For the negative progression guy, they need the entire bankroll to survive the negative progression. That was what I was getting at. Like, what are your thoughts on and you had both on that piece
there is
of it?
something else.
Yeah,
You're missing the other part of that. You're missing the experience level of the player. So a more experienced player, we're not like me. I'm not going to have a line drawn in the sand that says, if I'm $200 down, I'm walking away going home. Sorry, I'm done.
right.
Not going to happen. My skill level and the way I play, I know I can easily make that up. And I'm not just saying it just to say it or just say, okay, well, I'm hoping it happens. No, I've done it over and over and over again. Sometimes you end up going in the hole, but you end up getting your way back out. Stop losses are there and loss limits are there. When you can't figure out what you're doing, you just can't figure it out. You just got to walk away. And it's, just last week, or not last week, 1, 2, 3, about 4 weeks ago, I walked away. I took a $1,500 hit. I'm like, I can't figure this out. I just couldn't get myself right. So I had to accept my loss and cut my losses while I was ahead. Because if I couldn't figure it out in that first hour, 2 hours, I'm not going to figure it out. No matter how good I play, no matter how much experience I have, I am not going to figure it out. I'm going to take my loss, lick my wounds, go home. Figure it out. That's where you have to stop and think. Figure it out. Go home, replay everything on your drive home and say, what did I do wrong here? What was I doing wrong here? How come I couldn't fix this? Go home, practice on my table, try to figure out what I was doing wrong. And once I get that figured out and I get my mind right again, then I go back and I play. Then that next time, I usually end up making up that loss and then some. So hard stop losses, I think, should be there for people who don't have large bankrolls. I think it should be there for folks that are not experienced enough or people who haven't been playing craps for a very long time. So, for example, this guy here, Waylon, probably been playing a long time. He probably doesn't believe in stops. Goes all in. Your friend that has all that money doesn't believe in stops. He just plays. He plays till he's over, till he's done playing. Most of us who have a different mindset, and rely on the income, we have stops. But we also bet. We also place our bets not just to the level of our bankroll, but to the level of our skill. That's what advantage play is all about. I'm never going to outbet what I feel is my skill. I learned that the hard way.
And that comes to discipline right there, buddy. You
100%.
got that right.
Does that answer the question, John, or no?
Kinda. I mean, I think I think I'm asking the question wrong. I put that in chat. I think I'm asking the wrong question for what I was trying to get to.
Well, maybe someone else can chime
It was a
in
good conversation.
because I may be answering it wrong. Maybe I'm just hearing it wrong. I don't know.
Well,
No, it's
I think you answered it correctly. The the guys that are going to martingale up, or they're going to ladder up, or they're going to negative progression themselves, eventually they can win, but 98% of the people that are watching this show don't have the bankroll to do that. And so I don't recommend they try it. Then hell, you don't need to be watching YouTube. You need to be out there gambling. But most people on average buy in on most people, even myself. I buy in from $800 to $1,200 depending on the table and the minimums. And I've got a number somewhere in there when I'm playing that, and it could be just my feeling. Okay, I'm better off walking away right now and coming back and saving this 500 or this 600 or this 300 to have more bullets when I come back later, because for some reason, like he said, I can't figure it out. It's not working. So I'm better. Why would I want to give the damn casino all my money? I don't understand. I don't understand why anybody wants to go in with 100% stop loss. But again, I know people do, and I know at times it'll work for you, but it's not an easy way to do it. It is not an easy way to do it.
But I think it's important, Ed, to remind everybody that when you bought in for 1,000, that's only 10% of your total. You're not buying in with 10,000 and then walking away with 9.
Well, it depends on what you got. I mean, you got money in the safe, you got money in your pocket, and you got money you bought in with.
Yeah,
I used to play with a guy. Every time he bought in for $20,100. How bizarre is that? I mean, it was always $20,100. All right, but he had specific bets he placed, and they were generally high bets on specific numbers. And he's one of the luckiest gamblers I've ever seen. But most people don't have $20,000 to buy in with. I'm buying in with 1,000, and he's buying in with 20,100 every freaking time. But me and him would both go, okay, it's time to get off this table at about the same time. I'm down 200, he's down 2,000, or whatever the number is. And it's time or we fell in a hole and we've climbed back up. And percentage wise, we're still about the same on a percentage basis. So it's time to get off, lick our wounds, come back and hit it again later. So people have to have some discipline. I think the discipline is the key to John's question. I mean, you can say you have no discipline by going 100% in. That's not correct either. You're imagining going in and everything I buy in with, I'm willing to lose. I am not that person. Have I rail dumped on myself? You better damn sure believe I've rail dumped on myself. But usually it's on my last toss of my last week, on my last trip. I mean, this is what I'm gonna play with. I finally got the dice. I'm rail dumping on myself, and whatever I go home with, I go home with. But that's just a decision. That's not a smart gambling decision. That's not even a decision that people need to really make, other than you just do it because you're going to do it. I'm not into martingale. That's why they got house limits. because at some point in time, the martingale is going to fail. It may not fail for 5,000 tosses, but when it fails, it's going to fail.
All right. Further discussion? Excellent.
How much does time affect your decision on going into a stop loss? So let's say you win or you lose a lot in a rapid amount of time, and you bought in for 1,000, but you get down to 500 and decide, and you lost that 500 in 2 or 3 shooters, or maybe 1 or 2 shooters. How much does that affect your decision on, 500 is now my stop loss, I'm walking away?
If I lost 500 on random shooters, then either I'm not betting correctly or I'm just a dumbass. I mean, again, I think of it different. I think of it from a controlled shooter standpoint, not from a random shooter standpoint. So that's 2 different ways of thinking. If I'm going to lose $500 playing a don't pass and a 6-8, then it just ain't my freaking day, right? So then when I get the dice, I need to make that 500 and I need to get the hell out of there.
Well, also, if you were there for a half hour and you lost half of your bankroll, that means you're only planning to play for an hour. That's the way
it means I don't have any discipline. Is what it means. It means I don't know what the hell I'm doing and I'm stupid. If I lose $500 in a half hour on random toss.
Well, you could go by shooters, or you could go by time, or you could go by money. And if you're betting 50% of your bankroll that quickly, I mean, that's pretty aggressive, I would think.
Well, that's what I said. I'm pretty damn stupid if I lose $500 in 30 minutes or half an hour betting on dumbasses around the table. That's pretty stupid. So that would be on me. If I'm that stupid, I'm that stupid, but I'm not generally that stupid. I mean, it's different. It's different wherever you go. I don't have a local casino. I got to drive 3.5, 4.5 hours to get to where I want to go. I'm going to spend a weekend. You're going to get on a boat. You're going to play from 7 o'clock at night to whenever you want to play, whenever you want to quit. It's a different deal than if I can drive 30 minutes and go and hit and win $200 and drive home.
Right.
God help us if they ever put a casino close to me. You know, because then I'm going to be a true degenerate and go by there on the way to work, on the way home. Going to go there 3 times on the weekend, early in the morning. I'm going to be a total ass. I'm going to be a total dumbass if they ever have them close to me. Thank God they don't. At least I got to drive. I got to plan. I got to use a system. I got to plan my money management over 2 or 3 days. It's just like Jeff was talking about going to Atlantic City or for 1 day versus going for 3 days, or going to Vegas for 3 days versus your local. I mean, you got to play it different.
Wow, some really great discussion here, guys. The show has just pushed over the 3-hour time limit. This finale has just been phenomenal. We still have some great questions that I don't think we're going to get to tonight. But, John, do you have anything you want to follow up on with what's been discussed here? I see some excellent comments in the chat, and it's just been too hard for me to keep up with them.
No. Like I said, I was just trying to steer the conversation. I had an interesting thought on a couple of topics here. I was trying to steer it around, but I didn't frame the questions right, and we got off the rails a little bit. It's fine.
I don't think we got off the rails.
No need to add to it more than I already did. So,
well, I don't think we got off the rails. I think the debate. I've always said that, whether you agree or disagree, like El Toro said earlier, right. The debate is good for the game, and whether it doesn't matter what side of the fence you sit on. What was being said here tonight gives you food for thought, and I see a lot of people that have come in late to the show within the past 45 to 50 minutes that only caught this segment of it, but yet earlier in the show we talked about some things that kind of led up to this last 20, 25 minutes of the show. It's been really good. I
didn't want to talk about martingale, and that's what I was trying to avoid. I didn't want to talk about that as a strategy. I was just trying to talk about people who play with a with a stop loss with a high bankroll for the purpose of using the whole bankroll to achieve something. Like that's a mindset thing versus the stop loss limit mindset. And I was just trying to compare and contrast that, but we got off into martingaling. That wasn't the point of the question, which is fine. So it's all good.
Well, but the comments that were coming in on the chat, I know you watch them just like I do because you're helping me.
Yeah, they're great
but,
comments.
Good
combo out there.
the comments that
Definitely.
we're talking about, the definition of martingale and the definition of a ladder, and some people didn't know the difference and whether you're going up or coming down. I mean, I think it was a great debate because you saw what the 75 people that are watching said. So I think it was a great debate. I think we've had a great panel tonight. I know Craftsmaster Journey Joe had to leave us a little while ago. We've had Brian, Ed, Leon, and El Toro on with you and Dylan. I think it's been a really great show. I think Jeremy Bennett probably says it right here. Great show. Great way to end the season. Merry Christmas to everybody and enjoy. So, guys, we're going to have to wrap this show up. This is 3 hours. Typically, we do have an after show. There will not be an after show tonight. It's just not going to happen. But from a date standpoint of the next show, I don't know when that's going to be because I know Dylan's going to ask me that question. I'm going to have to get together with John and Dylan and talk a little bit about the show, and we'll see where we go from there. So let's go around the table here. Everybody that's here, thank you it's the problem with doing a show starting on the East Coast at 9 o'clock when it's 6 on the West Coast, and now it's midnight on the East Coast, it's 9 o'clock on the West Coast, and unfortunately, a 3-hour show for all of us sitting here with no breaks, and my dog also sitting here next to me that's just begging to go out, but she'll have to wait. But let's go around the table, and let's start with Brian. Thanks for coming on the show. Recap again what you're doing over there, Holy Roller, and maybe a little bit about that cruise with Jeremy and Color Up.
Yeah. Once again, we're doing a little lead trip, taking a couple of the people that are in the Color Up Club. You'll have the access to the dates for that. But we're all going to go on a cruise coming up here pretty soon, and we're going to all try to win free cruises. I'm going to show everybody how to do it. It's pretty simple, and hopefully not spend our entire bankroll and have some walkaway money or something. But it's going to be great. And then the other thing is, I'm often like traveling on a cruise, doesn't have the best internet. So whenever I'm able to be here, I love to be here. I love the community, the show. So thanks for having me. I know I haven't been consistent, mainly because I've been traveling, but thanks for having me. I really enjoy the community, everybody in the comments, the chats, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, Holy Roller, please do. I'd love some feedback as well. It's all about craps and cruising. So even if you don't like cruising, I'm still talking about craps there.
Yep. Nope. All right, Leon, you're up next. Merry Christmas to you, by the way, Brian. Leon, you're up.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it's a great show. It's nice to be on the second finale that I've been on. So a lot of neat discussion and a lot of thoughtful content. A couple of pieces I got to go back and watch because I missed some things that got said. But very productive show, and it's always great content as usual. And now we got some. It looks like we have some new players in the chat, some new to the game folks. So. A lot of this stuff we've talked about before, and I think the only thing we didn't cover tonight is the ever-loving DI. I think we've rehashed kind of a nice summary of some of the topics we've talked about all season, so to speak. But great overall. So I'm looking forward to going and actually playing. I got a trip planned coming up for work for Vegas in late January, so that'll be my next trip to go. And hopefully I get some content while I'm there as well.
Thank you. And we had a really good show on Thursday night about DI. I'll talk about that on my closing out here. But, Ed, you're up next. And somebody asked me just a second ago, how come I'm not highlighting El Toro? Because Zoom won't let me highlight somebody that doesn't have video on. That's the reason why. Somebody wanted to know who was talking. But, Ed, you're up.
Well, first of all, let me say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and a very happy and blessed New Year to everybody. Somebody asked earlier about Howard, rock and roller. He's a friend of mine. he has been a cancer survivor, and apparently I don't know any details really, other than he's in the hospital and he's doing a lot of tests. Uh, Apparently there's some cancer has regenerated itself in his body. So just to answer that question, that's really all we know. That's all he's shared. I know he's had it before, and he beat it once. So keep Howard in your thoughts and your prayers, especially your prayers, because that's what really counts. Uh, don't forget the reason for this season. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, very Happy Hanukkah if you're Jewish, and above all, God bless each and every one of you for putting up with us and watching us. I know I'm cantankerous as hell, and I thank you all for putting up with me. It's been a great year. I just wanted to stop in on this season finale. I stayed longer than I meant to. So thank you all for the show. We're going to have a new series coming out in January with Gargoyle and myself, where we're trying to teach a little DI. And the whole reason is we're just trying to get better players at the table. I think El Toro said that earlier. We want better players at the table. It's going to benefit somebody, whether it benefits us or not.
Right. Yep. And can we add that word cantankerous to the dictionary of craps that you and I started? Can we add that to that?
Yeah, we can add cantankerous, catawampus, and cantankerous. They all go together.
All right. El Toro, you're up next. Thank you for coming on, my friend. That's almost 6 hours I spent with you this week. I feel like we're brothers now.
Going on a date. So yeah, I will say, just from my family to everyone here, everyone who's watching, and everyone who's going to be watching this on a replay, my wife and I both wish everyone here a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and hopefully, we'll have a good New Year coming up.
Thank you.
I do want to say that sometimes, in discussions like these and in debates, people don't always agree. Sometimes they think that their opinion is gold, including me. We're older, so we're stubborn, right? We're kind of set in our ways, and you've got to have an open mind to try and look at things from a whole different perspective without taking things personal, but really open your mind to look at it, because it may surprise you what other folks are doing to be successful. And that's what I think the biggest message for me is always this. Again, I'm trying to help people keep people from losing money and having fun at the tables. That's the biggest thing for me. That's my joy, right? That's my passion, is make people enjoy this game for really how fun it is. It's no fun when you're losing, but you're also not really. I think you're not doing the homework it takes to understand how not to lose. But I appreciate these sessions. John, love you like a brother. Ed,
Of course.
same. We've had a chance to get to know each other, and it's nothing. I take nothing personal. We're always going to have these spirited discussions. We're always going to agree to disagree on certain items, and it's just part of it. It's kind of like just putting up a topic and let's discuss it and see what it is. It's not a matter of who's right and who's wrong. It's just a matter of, hey, opinion, and this is what I think. Again, everyone who has a way of betting and their strategies, kudos to you if it works for you. I, for one, I just don't believe in them, because not everybody is disciplined enough to play the strategy the way you may have invented it or coined it or anything else. The only strategy I know of that works is getting off the table, right? And that works for me, and it's more consistent than most. All the stuff we just talked about, it's great. But anyway, medicine is completely out of my system by now. So Merry Christmas, everybody. We love you all, and thank you everybody for the support. Thank you everybody for being on these channels and supporting us as content providers. And coming in 2024, everybody else will end up doing a better job for you. And that's one thing I think we as content providers should pretty much set up as our goal: do better
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Merry Christmas to you and your family. Yep. Amen. John, we're going to turn it over to you.
All right. What was that word you guys used? Cantankerous?
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard. So I'm going to add one to you. I had a funny one last night. My wife, she kept scratching right on her arm. I'm like, "What are you doing over there?" She's like, "I got a carbuncle." And I went, "A carbuncle? What the hell is that?" Like my grandmother used to have carbuncles, right? Like that's the funniest word I've heard in the longest time. It just cracked. Anyway, when you said cantankerous, it just popped into my head. I gotta clear the air here, El Toro. You know I love you, right? And Gargoyle and Ed and all you guys. I don't disagree with anything y'all said. I didn't feel like tonight that we were disagreeing on anything. I was just trying to
Great debate.
like pose questions and have some and make us talk about uncomfortable things. Sometimes you'll hear me do that to kind of drive stuff.
We're not
which is
uncomfortable.
good.
No, we're not uncomfortable. We
Yeah,
didn't take it
no.
that
I mean,
way.
just in general, just like have conversations that we wouldn't normally have. I think it's important to give to create a space where those opinions have to come out, right? And you've got some wisdom, and Ed's got some wisdom, and it's good to find ways to help y'all to give you a room to share it, like a reason to share it, right? And that's a lot of the genesis of this stuff. So I hope you don't think I was disagreeing with you all night. It was not my point. I was just trying to get us to talk. All that said, season 2 or 3, are we in, Jeff? Season 2?
Yes.
End of it?
Into season 2. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yep.
It's been good. I think we always get a lot of great comments on these. Like, that's a great show. And like now that you and Ed are doing more stuff on Thursdays, those are great shows. Like the more times we get these panel discussions going, it's just good. Like the more we get to hear people just kind of talk, right? It's good. So I love all these things. It's great. I don't have a lot to say other than Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is you celebrate. We celebrate Christmas here in my house, and like Ed said, know the reason for the season. That's a great way to say it, Ed. Thanks for leading with that. And whatever, love your family, help your kids, do the thing. It's fleeting. We know that Howard's fighting, John Patrick is fighting. We lost a couple of people this past year, and I think it's fleeting. Every second we have is pretty precious. So, with all that said, love you guys. Thanks for being my friends. Thanks for having me on the show, Jeff and Skill. And everybody in the chat, love you guys. I see you every day on our shows, and means the world. It really does. So,
All right. Thank you, John. I'm not going to repeat the Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays until my very last words, but I want to thank everybody that's here tonight, everybody that has participated throughout the 2 years. Dylan and I started this 2 years last week. On my channel, John was gracious enough once he got CGTV up to move it over to a much broader forum, probably where it should be. And we've been here on Casino Gaming TV. Hope you guys like and subscribe it. Also check out the Discord. You'll find a lot of information there as well. But from the bottom of my heart to everybody that's made this show a success, I want to say thank you to my the creator and my co-host of the show, Dylan from Skill and Luck. I know you're going to ask me when the next show is, Dylan. I cannot give you that date, but it will be sometime between the second and third week in January. I have to modify my schedule. I have a really busy late winter and early spring coming up with things I have to do. So, Dylan, I'll turn it over to you. You're first time back in a few times, and then we'll get out of here and wish everybody happy holidays. Go ahead, Dylan. You got the final words.
Well, I want to say thank you to everyone. I mean, Craps Chat is exactly what it is. It's people coming together talking about craps, and we're chatting. So, with this, it's like everybody has a different. There's nothing wrong with different opinions and different views, and we all have good intentions, and that's what we're striving for this whole thing to come together. So it's really a great thing. So I really appreciate everybody's attention and being so nice about stuff. I mean, there's a great way to come up and do our different views, and it's almost like looking at I use this analogy a lot. It's like looking at a cube from different views. You see the cube, from one side. I can see it from a different side. And we can all see it from a different side. We can describe it differently, but it's still a cube, and we're still talking about craps, and it's and that's what we're chatting about. So it's a perfect little analogy is the cube of the dice. So I love that analogy. So but I love the show, and it just brings out the best in all of us, and I can't. I'm so grateful that Jeff is here, hosting it, and it takes a lot of people. It takes you guys. It takes the whole community to come together, and it's just great fun. So I'm looking forward to the next season. I am sad that Shiro has left us, and there's great people out there that we're going to be that's going to be greatly missed, but we can still celebrate them in all of our different ways that we can do that, and we will still always have our memories, and that's what it's all about. Is we want our good health, we want good memories, and that's life, So I'm encouraging everyone to come back for more seasons. We're here, and to spread as much love, and I love this craps chat. So it's a great thing, and it all revolves around everybody coming together. So thank you all again. Thank you all again for making this happen.
All right. Well, thank you, Dylan. It was your idea. You and I batted it around on one of our multi-5-hour live sessions on a weekend 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, and it came to fruition. This is it, guys. The finale of season 2 of Craps Chat here on Casino Gaming TV Network. Like I said, I don't know when the next one will be. I am working on a new layout, a new logo, a new way to communicate and get things done. Hopefully, it'll be ready by the first show. I just haven't had time to do anything from my channel standpoint. As you heard Ed say a little while ago, I'm doing a lot of producing there. Ed and Gargoyle are having a show coming out. It's January 9th, I believe. It's going to be a start of a DI series. So if you think you want to watch the DI portion of it, come over and join us on Mid-Atlantic Craps and Roll to Win Craps. I think that I think it's going to be informative. It's going to be a multi-month process where we're going to bring somebody on, and they're actually going to be a guinea pig, if you will. For those of you that watch the show Thursday night, that would be Chris from Sideshow Gamble. He wanted to be here with us tonight, but he's currently in the process of on his way back from being promoted. So with that said, I hope that everybody has a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, a Happy New Year, whatever, like Ed said, whatever you're celebrating for the season, just remember there are people less fortunate than us in this world that need our prayers and need our help. And like Dylan said, we lost, and John said too, we lost a lot of good people this year, and we want them to be around for 2024. I'm looking forward to season 3 here on Casino Gaming TV for Craps Chat, and I wish I could tell you the date, but I can't, guys. Have a Merry Christmas, be safe, play smart, and Happy Holidays.